Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are going on the record. If you can please silence your cell phones. We are about to begin. So we are on the record. This is a regular scheduled meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. Today is Thursday, the 23rd day of January 2020. We had a scheduled 6 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 6:04 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this meeting? Councilperson Ridley is absent. Councilperson Prinzeri.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
Councilperson Yun.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon. Here. Councilperson Robinson.
Here.
Councilperson Lavarro will be absent for the entirety of the meeting. Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Waterman.
Here.
We have 7 members in attendance, 7 city council members in attendance at 6:04 p.m. May we kindly rise for a moment of silence, please. I would like to dedicate this moment of silence to a former city employee who served 25 years with the city of Jersey City, and he worked in the city clerk's office. He used to be a colleague of mine, Mr. Manny Tirado.
Add a name, Gail Gutner.
Thank you so much. Kindly remain standing as we salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Council President Waterman, in accordance with the New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2020, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Wednesday, December 18th, 2019. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Thursday, January 16, 2020 at 4 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law.
Sean.
Yes.
The tax assessor, could you put her up?
Can you put the your mic on? I can't hear you.
The mic is on. The tax assessor, she has to go. Could you bring her up first? On the portal? No. Oh, Joyce. Oh. She has to wait. Oh, I'm sorry.
We need a motion to add resolutions 1032 and 1033 to the agenda.
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Rivera. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson on the motion. Sorry about that. Seconded by Councilperson Prinzeri. On the motion to add items 1032 and 1033, Councilperson Ridley.
1033, Michael.
Is absent, right? Sorry. Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
Oh, hold on a minute. What is a 1033?
I don't have it.
That is the resolution that we talked about last night at the caucus. It's the contracting one that goes along with the programming one from Carmen Gandula.
Yeah, but still we have to have a hard copy. We don't.
It's on. The hard copy was given out at the caucus. And it is on the e-agenda. 33.
33. Sorry, we done.
That's okay. So I just need your vote to add.
So
we're adding items 1032 and 1033.
okay, aye.
Thank you.
I got 32, but 33.
Yep. And Councilperson Solomon?
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson? Aye. Councilperson Rivera?
Aye.
And Council President Waterman? Motion carries 7-0 with Council members Ridley and Lavarro absent. On to our regular scheduled meeting. We're starting with the first reading ordinances. So item 3.1, City Ordinance 20-006, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-8, prohibiting the right turn at the red signal eastbound Columbus Drive to southbound Brunswick Street, school days 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. City Ordinance item 3-3.2, City Ordinance 20-007 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-9, stop intersections, designating Water Street and Fifth Street as a stop intersection, stopping Water Street. Excuse me. Item 3.3, City Ordinance 20-008, is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Section 332-22, parking prohibited at all times on Van Winkle Avenue from Tunnelly Avenue to Senate Place. Item 3.4, City Ordinance 20-009, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Section 332-24, no parking certain hours on Washington Street and Grand Street in the vicinity of PS number 16. And I believe Councilperson Solomon had made some minor adjustments to the ordinance. Would you like to just state them for the record, please?
Yes, thank you, Clerk. And this is updated on the online version, but I passed out a paper copy if you hadn't seen it. What I mentioned at caucus was there was still ongoing discussion between the principal, the PTA, and the neighborhood association, and they had asked for a slight change. So previously the school loading unloading zone was going to be on Grand Street and on Washington Street. And what this does is it takes it off Grand because Grand has higher traffic and puts it entirely on Washington. So the new border is Washington Street going southbound from Grand to Morris in the mornings and from Grand to Sussex in the afternoons. Still fits the same 7 buses, it's just putting them on the south side of Washington, or excuse me, on the southbound side of Washington. And this was changed. The principal believes this is a better than on Grand, as does the neighborhood association, and the PTA was okay with it. So we hopefully have a slightly better solution, and that's the change that's reflected online and in the paper I passed out.
And Sean?
Yes.
City clerks, not yet acting, okay. 3.5, I like.
Deputy City Clerk is fine.
City clerk. 3.5, actually, we waiting for update from the business administrator, so when we get that, we're going to present.
And Sean, 3.7, I thought that was going to be pulled till we had further discussion on the parking tax.
No.
I can't say another tax.
Alrighty, so let me just read into the record item 3.5, City Ordinance 20-010, an ordinance amending Chapter 218, multiple dwellings, Article 1, security service and security cameras to mandate that multiple dwellings consist of 75 or more units and which are dedicated to senior citizen housing or for housing for the disabled must furnish on-site security personnel 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Item 3.6, City Ordinance 20-011, an ordinance authorizing the City of Jersey City as tenant to extend for a 1-year term a lease agreement with 18 Ash Street Realty, LLC, as a landlord for space located at 46 State Street, Jersey City. Item 3.7, City Ordinance 20-012, an ordinance amending Chapter 304, Taxation, Article 1, Parking Tax, to impose the mass transit access parking tax as authorized by recent amendments to NJSA 40:48C6.
Sean, on 3.7, it was brought up the other night when the mayor was in there saying that the state originally was going to build this station. And I think the state should be responsible for building this station, not putting more taxes on people. I think it should be pulled until we can find out more information on it.
Okay, I'm going to take a vote on items 3.1 to 3.7. Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye for introduction.
So there's a technical issue with item 3.5. It appears that the language that's currently included in the first reading ordinance does not match the draft that Councilman Yoon provided, and I don't know why. And I can't. I don't know if I get the edits done in time for this vote in 30 seconds. So, is there a way to defer and go to it later, or maybe do you want to hold it for one more meeting?
So, you know what? Then we crypto ordinance is a law to impact everybody. So I'd like to pull it, okay? And we do right, okay?
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, Vernon and I have just been working on it. We just found out this afternoon. And
so I'd like to.
Okay. So we'll withdraw 3.5.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring it back, and we'll make sure we get it right.
All right. Good. Do right. No rush, okay?
Okay, so we're going to withdraw item 3.5.
And we're going to reintroduce the next council meeting, okay?
So on items 3.1, excuse me, 1 second, 3.1 to 3.7, with the exception of 3.5, which has been withdrawn. Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye for introduction, except for 3.7. I'll abstain on that.
Okay, Councilperson Yun.
I'm going to vote for aye for introduction, and especially 3.7, that mass transit access parking tax. I understand the Councilman Richie Bojano's way come from, and when they state to a city continue creative special tax, it's not right things. But 3.7, this even special tax, it's not going to be financially burdened to residents of Jersey City. It's more like outside of people who bring the car in Jersey cause traffic congestion and the parking issue. I think that they should pay some share of the cost of all those problems and trouble. So I'm going to vote for aye for introduction for 3.1 to 3.7, except the 3.5 is withdrawn.
Thank you. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye for introduction.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye for introduction.
Okay, so we have on items 3.1 through 3.6, with the exception of 3.5, that's a 7-0 vote. And item 3.7 is introduced 6-0-1, with Councilperson Baggiano abstaining. And we have Councilpersons Ridley and Lavarro absent from all votes. All right, on to our second reading ordinances. Item 4.1, City Ordinance 20-001, calendar year 2020 ordinance to extend the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. This is a public hearing on this ordinance, and I see Yvonne Bolser.
Yes, I know you do this yearly, but I have a question. Did we extend the cap last year? Did we use the money above the cap?
We weren't even close to the cap last year, and we don't anticipate doing this year either. We just, if down the road there presents an issue where we might need it, this is something that allows us to have it open in future years, for 3 years.
Thank you.
This is still a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard?
Motion.
Motion made by Council President Waterman. May I have a second? Second by Councilperson Prinzary. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 20-001, Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to close the public hearing. For final adoption and consideration of City Ordinance 20-001, Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
I'm going to vote for aye, but I'm going to say this one, general public should be aware that City of Jersey City business administrator and the financial director working so hard to try to bring up the 2020 city budget, try to on time. Most cases, this city council proved that city budget, like a July, August, after spent 70, 80%, but we tried to prevent that kind of unreasonable, act. So actually, business administrator and the finance director worked it out very hard. We tried to go to pass our 2020 budget at the end of the March. So we're working on it. So I thank you for that effort to business administrator. So I'm going to vote for aye.
Thank you. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. City Ordinance 20-001 is approved 7-0 with Council members Ridley and Lavarro absent. On to item 4.2, City Ordinance 20-002, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Sections 332-22, no parking anytime on Columbus Drive. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Prinzary. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President Waterman. On the motion to close public hearing on City Ordinance 20-002, Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
I'm going to vote aye. Also, I'm going to tell that the Councilman James Sullivan did a great job. Used to be they have 2 parking spots available for veterans who used at the veteran clinic place. But through this one, how many places? 6?
Yeah, there'll be 6.
6 and 2.
And 6 and 2 on the other side.
Yeah. So you're going to have 8 parking spaces available. People who use a veterans clinic place. So it's a great job. He responds very well, and a lot of company from the Jersey City Heights residents who visiting that hospital, the clinic place. So good job. I'm going to vote for aye.
This is just to close the public hearing. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Gotcha. Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to close the public hearing for final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 20-002. Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
I'm glad to vote for aye. Thank you for your good job.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-002 is adopted 7-0 with Council members Ridley and Lavarro absent. On to item 4.3, City Ordinance 20-003. This is a franchise ordinance granting permission to 400 Claremont Urban Renewal, LLC, its successors and assigns to make private improvements in the public right-of-way of Yale Street and Claremont Avenue adjacent to the property located at 17-19 and 53-63 Yale Avenue and 400 and 148-430 Claremont Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, formerly known on a tax map of the City of Jersey City as Block 21801, lots 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, now known as Block 21801, Lot 4.01. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Rivera. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President Waterman. On the motion to close the public hearing, Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 20-003. For final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 20-003, Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robertson. Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-003 is adopted 7-0 with Council members Ridley and Lavarro absent. On to item 4.4, City Ordinance 20-004, an ordinance of the City of Jersey City amending Chapter 160 Fees and Charges, establishing a revised fee schedule for the registration of vacant buildings and vacant lots, and amending Chapter 254 Property Maintenance, revising and supplementing the regulations for the registration and maintenance of vacant buildings and vacant lots. This is a public hearing on this ordinance, and I see members of the public. Please come forward, and if you wouldn't mind, state your name, and you can spell it for me, please.
Sure, it's Richard Isgard, I-S-G-A-R-D.
One more time on your last name.
I-S-G-A-R-D.
I-S-G.
A-R-D.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I live at 38 Highland in Jersey City. First, I wanted to thank the council. Earlier last year, there was this whole issue with the tickets with regard to vacant lots, and the council came together, acknowledged there was a problem with it.
I'm sorry, Richard, can you just bring the mic up a little up to you? There you go.
Sure. I was just thanking the council. We had this whole issue last year. I think there were like 1,000 tickets of vacant lots around the city, and the council acknowledged it was an issue and set up meetings with the community to figure out a revised ordinance, and that's, I guess, why we are here. I was lucky enough to sit down with some of the council members. I think you were there. A couple of folks were here, so I don't have your names, and also Ms. Hendon, who is sitting right there. And we all gave suggestions. My situation was a little unusual, and that's why I just wanted to talk today about confirming that the revised language includes my situation. I live at 38 Highland, own 2 apartments in a small condominium building, 17 units, and we purchased a lot that's 45 feet contiguous to the building where we live. And so, you know, we cleaned up this lot. It was weed infested, rock infested. It was a mess and made it a beautiful lot. I have pictures if anybody would like to see of what I've done. I don't know if that is needed or not, but I could hand them up to yeah.
Sure.
So I took this lot, as I mentioned, and actually using the materials on the lot, transformed it into, I think, a really beautiful place. I have raised bed gardens for my vegetables, landscaped. I put a beautiful shed on there, put my cars there. I'm also, if you look at the last page, at the end of DeKalb Avenue, which is right outside my lot, I built a rock wall with the material from the lot, put up roses and flowers. People take pictures there. Also, I'm involved with the community in taking care of Spear Cemetery. I spent many hours mowing, weed whacking, trimming bushes, cleaning out garbage. I give tours at the Bergen Square Day for Spear Cemetery. So I'm very interested in beautifying the city, which was the purpose, I think, of the statute. But anyway, the language, the specific question is, the ordinance contains the following description of vacant lots that are exempt. It says the following vacant lots shall be exempt from the registration requirement that are contiguous with a dwelling or multiple dwelling owned by the same person or entity and used by the occupants of the dwelling or multiple dwelling for residential purposes. So my wife and I, we own 2 apartments, 38 Highland, but there are 17 units there, but we own 2, and then we own the lot. And so actually before this meeting, I sat down with Ms. Hendon, and she confirmed to me that the intent would be to include my situation, that I would be exempt. And I guess I'm here, I just wanted to put that on the record, and maybe Ms. Hendon can confirm that, and I'm going to send her an email tomorrow also. She was very kind enough to say she would confirm that.
At the end, we'll let her come at the end and confirm.
Sorry?
She'll let her come up at the end.
Okay, after this.
So that is my story.
Rich,
I appreciate you hearing me out.
you sent me those pictures the other day.
Yes.
I wish we had a lot more people like you in Jersey City that do things like that. It's really
Thank you. Listen, I'm originally from Brooklyn, but I've had 1 apartment since 2007. We got the other one 3 or 4 years ago. My wife and my 3 kids, we live in 2 apartments. Me, my wife, and 1 kid in 1 apartment. And my 2 kids in the other. They're in their 20s. They work in Manhattan, and I love Jersey City. I think it's fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing, and I see Yvonne Bossler.
I want to talk about the issue of the vacant buildings. This is going back many years, but in the 1990s, my husband and I had a relative who passed away in Trenton. If this law existed in Trenton in the 1990s, when she passed away, we had an obligation of selling a house. We couldn't. The market went south. We paid the taxes. We went down there periodically, cleaned up, and everything else you had to do. But the building in Trenton, during that period of time, no one was buying property at all. It took us maybe 4 years to get rid of the property at a very, very low amount of money, like $20,000 in that range. But if this law existed at that time in Trenton, I'll be penalized because the property was empty and we couldn't sell it. So the market is really hot in Jersey City, but you know, and I know, that it's hot one year, down the road it is cold another year. So there's a downside to this. I mean, the city, you know, if someone is not maintaining their property, then you take them to court. But to have a blanket thing like this, I mean, you have families in which family members pass away and the person does not leave a will, and they're in court fighting over property, and the property is vacant. So you're really adding burdens depending upon the family circumstances of, I believe I read on the ordinance, something like $3,000 a year. I mean, the state tells you that you have 18 months to take care of or to get rid of a property. But in real life, that doesn't happen in 18 months because of many things. I just happen to say that what happened in Trenton during that period of time, we couldn't get rid of it. And you end up, in the issue. We got to get rid of properties. Go after the people who don't take care of their property, but don't make a blanket rule to go after everyone, because you're going to be hurting down the road someone that inherited a property down the road, and they have to figure out how to get rid of it, and the market is soft. You're going to be penalizing them down the road. You really are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is still a public hearing on this ordinance. I see Jean Daly.
Hello. I happen to agree with Yvonne. I happened to read the ordinance rather, and found it very suspect. And the fact that it's forcing people to sell a property that's not possibly not at its highest level of return. By enacting these types of mandatory fees, you are therefore you're putting an imposition upon people who maybe, like Yvonne had said, can't sell it now, won't sell it now. There's a quarrel between estates, quarrel between kids, trying to get contractors, what have you. Again, by enforcing the, keep your lot clean ordinances, that should suffice. But having to impose a penalty because your lot's vacant, why? That to me is a money grab, complete money grab. And the fact that it goes up to $3,000 is insane for someone who doesn't want to develop their property. What if someone doesn't want to develop their property? What's wrong with that? As a human being, as a citizen, I'm allowed to purchase a piece of property and not develop it. Why are you charging me a fee because I choose to keep my property vacant? What if I choose to take that vacant property of mine and turn it into a garden for the community? Am I going to get penalized because I don't want to develop my property? Or if I feel that Jersey City maybe needs some open space and I decided to turn it into a community park? So what is this? This is insane.
Thank you, Jean.
I'm sorry, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
However, but this also ties into this resolution that's coming up, and it's about how you're taking these vacant properties, and aside from penalizing them financially, you're also moving them to the, what is that? Reconstruction, or what is those spots? Give me a second, I'm going to come up with it. Redevelopment.
Set aside the redevelopment plan.
Correct. You're taking these vacant properties, you're depriving people of their right to own a piece of property and do with it what they decide. And then now you're going to put it on these scattered redevelopment sites? How dare you? You are stealing people's property.
No.
Don't let her finish. Dinah will come up with.
That's okay. I know. I'm sure he'll correct me because I appreciate that.
He will.
But I must say, though, I find this very suspect. I find it very disappointing because some of these properties that are, quote unquote, going to be fined are owned by real people who are paid their taxes. Their taxes are up to date. And so why are they going to be skewered like this? Again, put whatever fine you may want upon it, but to actually fine people for not developing their property, that's insanity.
Thank you.
This is still a public hearing. And we have Laverne Washington.
You know, this is a shame in a sense. There's lots around here that need to be taken care of. My sister was here last year. This city cost her $6,000 for a lot that she has had for 25 years, and she keeps it clean. Right down there on Bramhall Avenue, between Holiday Street and Van Horn, where she lived all her life. My sister owns 3 other properties in this city, which I live in one of them. She doesn't charge me a lot of rent. It's family in her property. She makes sure we have somewhere to live. When my house got burned up in 1985 at 256 Pacific, my sister owned this property. She takes care of her property. When McCann took her to court and fined her all that money, and she paid her taxes, she came here, and she don't even want to come here tonight. This is a disgrace how we go on about it. There's lots that need to be done this way, but private lots do not need to be done. God bless you people.
Thank you.
This is still a public hearing on this ordinance, and I see Jason Berg.
Jason Berg here. Thank you very much. No, it's good that we register the properties, put numbers on them, which is actually a city ordinance, but it's never been applied. Actually, I made that suggestion about years ago. I'm sure this council remembers the papers, the 27 items I sent on to you. And also the information who has about who owns the property. It makes it easy. You don't have to go to City Hall. But the real thing is feed them. We're being feed to death. You're balancing out your budget with the fees on the people. You're not raising taxes, but you're feeding us with everything. Oh, the real funny thing is that ordinances are pursuant to the Constitution, which actually need not apply. It only applies to persons, which anyone here with red blood in their veins is a human being. Unfortunately, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that businesses are persons. And here's a little excitement thing. Now, my family has been on Stegman Place since 1946. I'm the last surviving original owner on the odd side. And there is an open piece of property at the end of the block of the cul-de-sac. And if that gets filled in with a building, it's going to make the entire property end look disgusting. If you go at Stegman Court, Stegman Terrace, they're filled up. It's overgrown. It's overbuilt. Let's have common sense. And when it comes to legislation, no one on this council, I'd like to know how many people create their own legislation here. They rely upon the city council to do their bidding, and you as the legislature pass it on because you are told to. Because if you don't...
Stay focused on the ordinance, okay?
You may not be put on there. Yes, I will. But the real thing here is $3,000 penalizing someone? Come on, folks. This is not Penaland or you know, redo this. Why are you making the people suffer? Oh, protect and serve. You can't protect us, and you don't serve us well. So when you do something like this, you're really hurting the people. I really like to see this table to even do better, so it's not hurting. But $3,000? Does anyone have $3,000 on properties here to there? Really? And you want to make the city overgrown? We need space. I mean, you go on Bergen Avenue, there's about 4 or 5 lots that have been open since I've known. And now they can do something? What about these people, this gentleman that came up first, that is taking his properties and beautifying it and making it somewhat of a public-private park? Let's be smart, but when it comes to intelligence, it's in the toilet. Thank you.
This is still a public hearing on this ordinance, sir. If you wouldn't mind stating your name.
Hi, Andrew Russo.
Andrew?
Russo.
Russo? Thank you.
Thank you. First time speaking. Thank you for having me. Hi, Jermaine, from Ward F. Representing. So this issue is obviously very complicated. I'm glad that someone raised the U.S. Supreme Court. The thing is, municipalities do have broad powers to pursue blighted properties, truly blighted properties that are sore on the community, through eminent domain actions. And I know that it's very difficult in reality to constantly be eminent domaining folks, especially when you hear that kind of pushback, and it's a legitimate concern. The only thing I would say about this ordinance is that it seems to kind of be overbroad. It captures everybody, not just the blight. So the gentleman behind us who beautified his property for the benefit of the community, that would not be a good target for eminent domain, I think from a legal perspective, for a number of reasons. So I get that this is sort of a stopgap. The only problem though is that, again, it's overbroad. I would like to see more about criteria for what is considered a blighted property, what is, maybe there's some more, maybe there's a tiering structure based on how blighted the city feels the property is, or, anyway, there could be alternatives to tier this in a way that, people can make a case that I've done good things with my property. And then the people who simply sit on their property and do nothing with it, it becomes an eyesore. I'm thinking of Monticello, to be honest with you. There's just so many properties where it's very clear that the people want to do nothing with them. Even when small business owners try to rent it out, they're told, here's our rent, and it's insane. And I get that we want to, push people a little bit, nudge people a little bit. But I also, congratulations to the bar owner of Golden Cicada. That's a perfect example. I took that all the way to Supreme Court. I know you guys know. The other thing is, we want to make sure that if these properties do get turned over in eminent domain, that they're not just turned over to private interests or developers.
So, Andrew, this ordinance is about registering vacant lots and vacant buildings. I think they was talking about something else about the scattered site. That's a different ordinance. That's actually an ordinance. This resolution this is an ordinance that's a resolution. It's about just registering. So if you own a vacant lot or you own a vacant building, we want you to let us know exactly who you are, because at least we have a contact person. When you leave a property vacant or a lot is dirty, we know, and the community knows who.
You know who to go after.
Right. So this is not about like eminent domain or taking anyone's property, just registering.
Actually, no, I was going a different direction. I actually agree. I think there should be more eminent domain if that's a true issue, right? Because
this is not this.
This is not
right, and so it doesn't have to do with the ordinance. It's related. Obviously, it's a huge issue. So thank you for Jermaine. And I won't take any more time, but I will say I agree with registering. We need to know who these people are. We need to hold them accountable for the fact that they're just leaving their properties. We're not talking about the gentleman behind us. We're talking about the people who aren't here, don't care about our city.
and they're just waiting for that big payday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is still a public ordinance, sir?
Public hearing,
Public hearing, yep.
Hello, John Keegan. Nice to see you all again.
Hi, John.
I read through the language today, and if I am referencing the correct ordinance here, there's language about vacant lots not being allowed to just pile up with trash and dog excrement and empty bottles of water and soda cans and food and so forth. Brian, what's the enforcement mechanism for that?
Just speak to the council, then afterwards, we'll have someone come up and answer all these questions.
What is the enforcement mechanism?
Just state your questions, all your questions. When you're done, then we'll have someone come up and answer.
Okay, so my questions would be, what is the enforcement mechanism whereby the owner of a vacant lot who allows his or her property to pile sky high with trash all over the place, as is the case in Ward F at more vacant lots than I can recall off the top of my head? What does the city do about that from an enforcement standpoint? How does this particular ordinance change that enforcement mechanism? So what are we doing now that's introduced in this particular ordinance that we have not been doing in the past? Right, that'd be my first question. And the reason I raise this, as I said, I'll give you an example of a vacant lot at Municipal and Halliday that I communicated to Mr. Robinson. Had dog excrement, and, debris and food and various litter all over the place. In early December, Mr. Robinson, I raised this to your attention. Your response was to suggest that I put on gloves and clean it up myself. I don't think that's
just speak to the council, okay? Don't single no one out. Just speak to us, okay?
Okay. And it's not just Mr. Robinson. I don't mean to single anyone out. I've emailed 3 or 4 of you on this. I've had no response, and other than to say I'll forward it to DPW, which is the same response I've been getting for 4 to 5 years now from my council representation. So, I think if we want to see economic development in Ward F and in other areas of the city where there isn't as much economic activity, a good place to start would be to enforce vacant lots not being allowed to allow trash to pile up all over the place. Right? Who would drive into a community and see vacant lots with trash all over the place and say, I think I'd like to purchase property here? I know I wouldn't. So that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public still wishing to be heard?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Solomon. May I have a second?
Hold on.
Up. You coming up to speak on the ordinance? Come on up.
No, not the ordinance.
No, not.
Right. Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilperson Solomon to close the public hearing on ordinance 20-004. May I have a second?
Second.
Made that second.
Rivera.
Councilperson Rivera, I'm sorry. On the motion to close the public hearing, Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Aye. Councilperson Yun.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye. Oh, aye.
Sorry. Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to close the public hearing of City Ordinance 20-004 for final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 20-004. Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
First of all, Andrew, you said register lots so we know who the owners are. They pay taxes on these lots, so we do know who the owners are. Secondly, if a lot's a mess, the city should either find the owner of the lot or clean it up and bill the owner of the lot. I don't see any point in this here. I think it's just another tax on people. I vote no.
Sean.
Sean.
No,
Yes.
no.
Sean.
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 That
Yes.
Council President?
Sean.
Yes.
Before we take the vote, I wanted Director Henderson to come up and answer
Yes.
some of these questions and explain this ordinance.
Yeah.
Director Hendon.
Dinah Hendon?
Yeah, you're moving too fast. Slow down.
I'm only doing my job. Okay, will do.
You just put in the speed hump. You know who owns the lot? No, I mean, we told that Director will be answer all the questions made by speaker.
Cars enforcement. There was
problem.
a question about enforcement, and then this additional lot. The gentleman came up and said you had a conversation.
Oh,
so
I
we want
spoke
all
to
this
Mr.
on the record.
Yes, thank you. I spoke to Mr. Isgard, and I assured him that his
Dinah, if you could just move the mic towards you a little bit.
lot, which is contiguous to the building that he lives in, is exactly what was meant when we drafted this exemption. So there's no need for him to register. We know how to find him. To speak to Councilman Boggiano's issues, that is why this ordinance was revised, to exempt those lots where the lot is contiguous to the property owner who lives in the building next to the lot. And then there were some other exemptions. I'm not going to go into them. The fee schedule is the schedule that was enacted in, I think, 2017, and the only thing that's been revised is that now vacant lots, unlike vacant buildings, have a greatly reduced fee. In fact, in 2014, when the ordinance was very first enacted, the fees were higher than what is currently in this ordinance now for vacant lots. So, in terms of enforcement, the council knows my office responds to these complaints. We issue violation notices. We issue summonses to owners that are not in compliance with the fencing requirements and the upkeep requirements on vacant lots and vacant buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
Do you want me to take the vote over?
Yes, take it over.
Okay. So, for final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 20-004, Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye.
Councilperson Boggiano.
No, as I said, we already know who the owners of the lots are. If the lot's a mess, fine them. If they don't clean it up, the city cleans it up and bills them. I can't see the point of this ordinance like this, no.
Okay. Councilperson Yun.
But actually, when this city council passed the property maintenance ordinance years ago, there were a lot of actually issue and concern because, as I say, like adjacent lot, they use as a gardening and the barbecue place. They also have to pay $1,000 registration fee. So what we did our council set up the vacant lot and vacant building ordinance review committee. They are very tirelessly work, almost 5-6 months. And this is a final version to try protect people who they manage their property to clean nice. Those people actually not going to have to pay registration if they use for as residential purpose or they have a business purpose or non-profit. So their fee will be $250 for registration fee. What that means is that some property owned by LLC, corporation, so even though city right on the citation, certain issue, it is not maintained a lot, but problem is that hard to track down. So we creative that different system make we able to enforce to property owner to keep the lot clean. So any vacant lot, when you say the vacant lot, it's not just empty lot. Unused lot, they have to be postal bill, 3x5. They have to be lot, street and address, maintenance company, and the person's name, and the contact information. So city able to force that, the law ordinance we creative, the property management. So we try to make a cities more cleaner and the safer. And the vacant building, some vacant building that ignore the maintenance many, many years, actually they devaluated neighbor's property. and their place as very public unsafe place. So we're going to make sure that to enforce that duration and the higher fee, because the reason to vacant buildings is a higher fee because there are more complicated enforcement and inspection involved. So we tried to make this city more cleaner, more safer place. And anybody invest some money and purchase land, just leave it as it is, waiting for the right time, but we also ask them do their job to make clean, keep it nice. So don't hurt the people of Jersey City if you had tried to get the opportunity to make money in Jersey City. So this is what it is. So it's a great things one. I can tell you that committee put many hours, times to create the good ordinance for future of Jersey City. So I'm gonna vote for aye. Oh, by the way, we gotta give them some credit. Councilman Robinson, his office worked very tirelessly, worked for this ordinance. Thank you, good job.
Councilperson Solomon.
You don't have to see me 15 minutes later in the parking. It's okay.
Councilperson Solomon.
Thank you to the committee for pushing this forward, and I vote aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Councilman Young. Yeah, when we first got this, we had thousands upon thousands upon thousands of tickets that was issued to people with vacant lots. The law was already in place in 2014. I'm happy to sit on this committee with Ms. Hendon, Director Hendon, Councilman Young, Council President Waterman, and we spent about 6 months trying to get this right because we do have a problem in the city with people just leaving abandoned lots and abandoned buildings and not taking care of them, not cleaning them, not properly putting the fence up. I think this is just a step in the right direction. We did lower the price on lots, but we did raise the prices on buildings because we have to go in and inspect the buildings to make sure that they're safe and well kept for the safety of the community. With that being said, I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Rivera.
I vote aye.
And Council President Waterman.
I vote aye.
City Ordinance 20-004 is adopted 6-1 with Councilperson Baggiano voting no, and Councilperson Ridley and Lavaro absent.
Oh, the Council President? I think the general public should know the one thing. If even they cannot own by a government, they must also register. So we already bring to even government to bring accountability for their own land. So this is great to protect the people's interests in Jersey City.
Thank you. On to our last second reading ordinance, item 4.5, City Ordinance 20-005. It's an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 160, Fees and Charges of the Municipal Code, Fee for Short-Term Rental Applicants. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councilperson Rivera, seconded by Council President Waterman. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 20-005, Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Young.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Lavaro. Council President Waterman. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Aye.
It's the first time I did that. Motion carries 7-0 to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 20-005 for consideration and final adoption of City Ordinance 20-005. Councilperson Prinzary.
No.
Councilperson Baggiano.
No.
Councilperson Young.
This one, I liked taxpayer of Jersey City aware that while we passing tonight, that last year, one of the hottest issues in Jersey City is that short-term rental, I'm going to use as Airbnb. Last year, when we created Airbnb ordinance, we say very clear, if we want to do business, Airbnb, any short-term rental business in Jersey City, you must register required. At the time, we passed the ordinance, registration fee is $250, plus you must have zoning certification to make sure your residential is qualified for short-term rental business. Number two, you bring up the guests in your house from all over the different world, make sure your house is safer. So in order to make sure they're safe or not, you must have certification of fire prevention inspection. So, $250 is a registration fee. Social fees involved. Zoning certification, $100. Fire prevention inspection, $150. And somehow, they have another housing code inspection, maybe $20, $40, $50, depending on the units. So you're talking about $250, around $500, $600 to order to get registration. But now, that's why we passed that, because based on housing probation, order to just processing registration, they need $250. And also, zoning department, order to verify for the zoning certification to issue, they need some inspection required. The inspection costs $100. Fire prevention, same thing. It's like a fire inspector go out to look at the house, the cost involved, so $150. So now, today, this city council passed last year, and this year, we tried to waive that zoning certification fee and the fire prevention fee, around $250. You know what that means? There, short-term rental hosts not pay, but general public, taxpayer of Jersey City will be pick up that cost. Is that fair? I don't think so. If we pass this ordinance, this council bend our head to certain special interest group to change the fee waive and those costs of inspection we pass to general taxpayer. Not only that, this city have to hire short-term rental monitoring company. They're going to monitor all the short-term rental activity in Jersey City. You know how much we're going to pay for them? $155,000 a year. Then who's going to pay for their fee? When I look at it, this council, first role is that bring up the fairness to the taxpayer. If anybody remember that, last year, I against the Airbnb regulation, certain period of time, I just Tom. But today, this council somebody tried to ban and they tried to waive the fee for them. Is that fair for the people of Jersey City? Those kind of expense for them is a part of business expensive. So whatever they make income, their business expense as a deductible. Why we have to waive that? Some expense, deductible expense, why we have to waive, and their cost of transfer, pass to the taxpayer of Jersey City. Listen. When I look at it as not a council person, as the taxpayer, I'm not going to support like that. Please, while you guys are asleep, and while our taxpayer, while they're sleeping, and some try to create the ordinance, pass their cost, general regular taxpayer. When I see that, is unacceptable. Because of that, not because of the problem with the Airbnb host, because of unfairness, I'm going to vote for no And I'm going to ask my colleagues, please, when they come to lose the fairness to taxpayer, then we're going to lose that reason to why we here. So I'm going to vote no, and I think my colleagues stand the right things for the taxpayer tonight.
Councilperson Solomon.
I will quickly and respectfully disagree with my colleague, Councilman Yoon. The reason that I co-sponsored this or sponsored this ordinance is in the interest of fairness. Neither Councilman Bojian or Councilman Yoon were in favor of the referendum that passed, but the rest of us were, the 7 of us on this body, and we put our names on endorsing that resolution, that referendum. And in every public discussion of it, when someone asked how much is it going to cost to register your short-term rental, the answer was $250. And if you look at the ordinance as written, it says the registration fee is $250. And then people started to register, and they were charged a $250 fee, but then they were assessed $100 for zoning and $150 for fire, and they reached out and they said, you told us the fee was $250, and now you're charging us $500. That's not fair. So this is simply being true to the word of the 7 of us that specifically said that it should cost $250. In the future, we can look. After a year or 2 years of data, we'll know how much the costs are. We'll have a better sense of how well the registration is working, and we can adjust. We can adjust the fee up or we can adjust the fee down. But if we're charging people over $500 to register, keep in mind, these are not business people. These are people that are doing it in their homes. That was the whole purpose of the ordinance. And that would put us as the most expensive city of every city we looked at. So we would be higher charges than every other city doing a short-term rental fee. So that's the purpose of the ordinance. It's to keep true to our word, to then, in the next couple of years, review as it goes forward, but to make sure we're not kind of charging extra fees beyond what we said we would. So with that, I vote aye.
Councilperson Robinson.
BA, I have a quick question. The extra fees, the zoning fees, all of the fees that weren't in the original ordinance, is it true that we cannot change that until, what, is it 3 years?
Yeah, there's a 3-year waiting period because of the referendum, but that's only on the short-term rental ordinance itself. We are right now addressing other fees unrelated to the short-term rental fee, related in the sense that they can be incurred when you're doing inspections, but we're not making any changes to the short-term rental ordinance.
So the $250 that was in there, can we get sued if we charge something extra from like regular tenants? I guess that's for the law department. Like if we're charging zoning fees and different fees and we said inside of the ordinance it's $250, can the city get sued for this?
I think the question is, could the city get sued? I mean, the city could theoretically be sued for anything. However, in this particular instance, it's simply a waiver of the fees that would be instituted for the zoning and the fire, as you said. It's not a waiver of the fee for the short-term rental.
So if we was to pass this, how long can we revisit, like bringing those fees back? Because I don't want the city to lose money, but I know we did tell the general public, you know, it was going to be a certain thing.
If we're talking about the fees that we are addressing tonight,
yeah, the zoning and fire.
Would be, there would be no limit on that. It would only be the short-term rental fee because that ordinance from last year passed by virtue of a ballot referendum. That's locked in for 3 years.
Okay, so council, I'm gonna vote yes, but I want to just be able to talk to us to go out and revisit this, you know, sooner rather than later, because we don't want us as a city, you know, losing fees, but we do want to keep our word, and we want to make sure that, you know, eventually, sometime soon, that we are able to collect these fees. Maybe not this year, in the first year of the you know, the ordinance, but maybe in the second year we should revisit it to be able to charge the zoning and fire fees, because, you know, it's the same thing as a vacant lot. We have work to do to make sure that we're you know, registering And the fire department is going out to, you know, inspect these buildings, and we don't want them going out for free. So if we can, we just want to revisit it, but I'm going to vote aye. Just in fairness, because we did tell them, and I was in those meetings, that it would be $250.
Thank you. Councilperson Rivera.
Vote aye.
And President Waterman. Thank you. Okay, so we have a 5-2 vote. City Ordinance 20-005 is adopted 5-2 with council members Baggiano and Yun voting no, Councilperson Ridley and Lavaro absent. Okay, on to our public speaking portion of the meeting. Excuse me 1 second. So we have, on the first speaker is Laverne Washington. Did she leave? Yes. Okay, thank you. Next speaker is, I hope I don't butcher this name, Rabbanit Zadikam. If I mispronounce your name, ma'am, please correct me.
Good evening, and thank you for hearing me this evening. It's Rabbanit Zadikim Yisrael Lewi.
Thank you.
And I'm here to basically speak about an appeal for the commemorative street designation application for my late husband, Rabbi Zachariah Lewi. To help me with this, I'd like to give you 4 photos. This is still a sensitive subject because we're talking about a hit and run. So you forgive me if I get a little emotional because we're talking about the death of my husband. On September 21st, 2015, approximately 7 p.m., my husband was on his way home from work, and he stepped off the curb of Danforth Avenue and Route 440 North to cross over to Society Hills where we live. He made it to the first lane, he made it to the second lane, and just as he was about to step in the third lane, this was a red light, a car ran and dragged him down 440. So the first photo you have is a photo of my husband before the hit and run. The second photo shows you the point of impact where the car dragged him. The third photo shows you the impact and the trauma that put him in the hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries 6 days later and died. The last photo is the point of impact, and above that is the sign that I'm asking to have designated. This is a difficult subject, but I'm not just asking for a sign, but this is a symbol to remind people how dangerous it is crossing 440. I've done it myself, and I find that it's not enough traffic security for people, pedestrians crossing, whether it's to Acme, whether it's to the mall. It's just a dangerous area that really needs to be looked at for the safety of the citizens of Jersey City. I'm going to be brief because I'm finding myself a little emotional about this, but I'm asking that you revisit and look at this a little bit more, because we're not just talking about a sign, we're talking about a symbol based on someone's life that was taken. He was dragged. I don't know if you understand what it's like to sit there and watch a loved one's life just be slowly taken away, but I've done that, and it's all because of the recklessness of a vehicle, a person driving, who 30 seconds pulled aside the shoulder and disappeared. And it was because of a citizen who was driving who blocked my husband's way to prevent other vehicles from hitting him that he was unable to witness, to see the license plate or to see the driver or the color of the car. The most important thing at that point was to save his life. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. On that particular day, I just missed the accident myself by 5 minutes. When I walked through, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just asking you to just reconsider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Afshin Sami. Shamisi.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Afshin Shamsi. I'm a resident of Princeton. I'm here tonight in my capacity as a concerned citizen and as an ACLU New Jersey board member. I want to thank you for your consideration of Resolution 20058 that calls on our elected officials at every level to reunify migrant families, put an end to migrant detention, provide legal representation, and to afford migrant families with due process of law by allowing them the full and fair protection to seek a full and fair opportunity to seek protection from the United States. I'm especially grateful to Councilman Solomon for introducing this resolution and to Councilwoman Prince Airy and Councilman Lavaro Jr. for co-sponsoring. Like many across the nation, I've been in a lot of pain over the inhumane treatment of migrant families at our borders, in our detention centers, and in the interior of the country. Many of these families are fleeing violence or persecution in their countries of origin and have traveled great distances, overcoming the dangers of the road to seek a better life in the United States. They deserve our compassion, and at the very least, the opportunity to seek the protection of the United States by allowing them to go through immigration proceedings. Instead, they're faced here with unspeakable horrors, having their children taken away, being put in unsanitary cages without adequate food, water, and necessary medications. Children have died in these detention centers, and according to the Justice Department, many more have been sexually assaulted. I cannot begin to imagine the trauma these children and families must be experiencing, the devastating effects of which will last a lifetime. For a long time, as I saw this unfold, I felt helpless until I went to my mayor and council in Princeton and asked them to raise their voice on this issue. Princeton's Mayor Lempert invited me to draft a resolution for their consideration. I did so with help from ACLU New Jersey's senior staff attorney, Farron Alello, who works on immigrants' rights, and Make the Road New Jersey's Director of Worker Organizing and Policy, Adil Ahmed. That is how this movement started. The resolution has thus far been passed by Montgomery, Bound Brook, Princeton, Hoboken, and several other New Jersey towns are considering it as well. 2 weeks ago, I also spoke to the executive director of a national nonprofit which has 150 chapters across the country, and they've agreed to call upon their membership to disseminate this resolution across the nation. To this end, I'm developing a toolkit for them. The ACLU in New Jersey has shared a statement of support, which I will read to you now. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on Resolution 20058. Founded in 1960, the ACLU New Jersey is the state's leading organization dedicated to defending and advancing civil rights and liberties. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with more than 50,000 members and donors in New Jersey and tens of thousands of more supporters across the state. The ACLU New Jersey stands in strong support of this resolution. As an organization committed to protecting the rights of immigrants and fair and equitable access to justice, we are deeply concerned with the inhumane and unconstitutional use of immigration detention in the U.S., including the separation of children from their parents, the unsafe and unsanitary conditions of detention, and the lack of due process that is afforded to those in immigration proceedings. These actions are in opposition to the very principles that we value as a community, as a state, and we applaud this resolution for demanding systemic change at the national, state, and local level. This resolution calls for an end to government actions that are devastating families in Jersey City, New Jersey, and across our state, including the separation of families and senseless detention of asylum seekers and others facing potential deportation. It also calls upon our federal legislatures to defund immigration enforcement agencies so that we can redirect resources to priorities that serve our families and communities. It calls on New Jersey and our county governments to take action to protect the most fundamental rights of immigrants by fully funding the state's Universal Immigration Representation Program and allowing for meaningful civilian oversight of the jails and detention facilities. The ACLU New Jersey and our partners in the New Jersey Coalition for Immigrant Representation have long advocated for a universal representation program for indigent immigrants facing deportation. Thank you for speaking out on these critically important issues. As I'm running out of time, I'll just close very quickly. As I've gone to different townships to speak in support of the resolution, some people have opined that it's not a township's place to comment on national matters. I sometimes wonder if this is how the Holocaust started, with people thinking it's not my place to comment, this is not my jurisdiction. I believe that this is an issue for every person of conscience, every business, every corporation, and every institution, and every elected official. I ask you to be among the first to join the movement to end the inhumane treatment of migrants in our country.
Thank you.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Yes, you did.
Mildred Purdy. Mildred? Not here. Simone Krefsky? Samuel Gutierrez? Elaine Mintha? If I mispronounce your name, please correct me.
No, that's fine. My name is Alan Mentha.
Alan. It's spelled A-L-A-I-N?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm a committeeman in Ward B. I'm the executive director of Welcome Home Jersey City, a community-based organization that provides support to local refugees. My wife and I are 25-year residents of Jersey City, and more importantly, our 9-year-old daughter, Amélie, is a native. It's because I care about the city that Amélie is growing up in that I'm here before you tonight. Thank you, Council President Waterman. Thanks to all of you for considering the resolution which calls upon the White House and Congress to reunify migrant families, release them from detention, and afford them due process for immigration. Thank you, Councilman Solomon. Thank you, Councilwoman Prince Airy, and to Councilman Lavaro, who isn't here, for sponsoring and co-sponsoring the amendment of the resolution. Jersey City is the most diverse city in the most diverse county of the most diverse state in the United States. This is what makes it such a rich cultural environment for us and our children. It's a point of pride that Jersey City makes room for people of all kinds, including legal immigrants. Welcome Home works with refugees and occasionally asylum seekers, all of whom are here legally. Our weekly enrichment program, Fun Club, is about people making connections with people. This resonates with so many that we have an oversupply of volunteers. It's an amazing luxury problem to have. I remember the first time I really interacted with the refugee family. My wife and I invited an Eritrean family over for coffee after we'd helped set up their apartment. We sat around the coffee table, grinning at each other while our daughters played with Amélie's toy kitchen. We had nothing to say to each other because, well, Teshome and Simrat's English wasn't much better than our Tigrinya, which was non-existent. But Amelie brought me a sandwich made of wood and plastic, and Deborah brought her father a sandwich. And for lack of any better ideas, I lifted my sandwich in the air and said, "Sandwich." And Teshome lifted his sandwich in the air and said, "Panino." And I looked at him and said, "You speak Italian?" Before realizing that Eritrea had been colonized by the Italians. They had introduced sandwiches there. And so we started looking up YouTube videos about sandwich making and about bread. And I, looked up a video about Jewish challah, which my daughter had learned to make with my mom over the holidays. And we looked up a video about injera bread, which is, what the Eritreans and Ethiopians basically use as a utensil to eat their food. We had so much fun. We had a blast. And what's my point? It's that the kids led the way. If you ever want to feel your heart burst with love and acceptance, come to Fun Club one Thursday evening and meet some of our kids. The resolution before the council asks that we treat immigrants who come here with the same dignity and protections that we afford all our citizens. There are so many things I could say about it here tonight, but I want to focus on the part of the resolution about family separations. One of our clients, Doha, who came from Syria, is separated from her adult children. Although the circumstances are different than that of families being pulled apart due to the immigrant detention system here in the US, the pain I see in Doha's face, indeed in her entire being, when she talks about being apart from her children is palpable, sad, and tragic. I can't imagine what it would be like if the children she was separated from were young, were 2 or 3 years old, or 9 years old like my Amelie. It's inhumane to separate children and parents. As a city, we work hard to do this through child protective services only in the most severe and dangerous cases. Why would we do it to migrant families? Who are we saving these kids from? This policy of child separation only causes long-term trauma. One of the reasons so many people volunteer every week at Welcome Home is that our coming together is a tangible way to deal with the pain and frustration in our feeling of powerlessness and as the situation faced by migrants in this country to rectify some of the wrongdoing and the way refugee families are being treated. Signing this resolution would be a way for the City Council to do something concrete and to say this isn't how we treat people in Jersey City. We value diversity. We respect and honor all kinds of families. It's just who we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Rosanna Pittman. Rosanna Pittman. Not here. Yvonne Balser.
Yvonne Balser. Since October, I have been coming here asking about the tax appeals. I even sent an email out to John Metro. I still have not received that information on tax appeals and how much money the city is spending. I don't know what is the problem getting tax appeals for. I would like to get the information. I don't know why, as a taxpayer, I can't. I've gotten this information from previous administrations, so what's the problem with the Phil administration? Now, since I only have a few moments to speak through the 5-minute limit, I want to talk about the city's bike lanes. I found this article online, actually written by firemen in New York City. New York City firefighters union blasts Vision Zero bike lanes and road diets. You're basically eliminating the ability for emergency vehicles to get around. After 4 years of lane reduction, aerial bike lanes, road diets, and other so-called traffic calming measures on the streets of New York, which is similar to Jersey City, the country's largest firefighters union is saying enough. The New York Post reported yesterday that the fire department of New York response time has risen dramatically over the last year, and that the city's firefighters union, the largest in the country, says that Mayor Bill de Blasio's Vision Zero initiative is the major cause. The United Firefighters Association record secretary told the Post, Vision Zero is fully intended to save lives from traffic accidents, but by the city adding concrete barriers, flower pots, and everything else, that you're basically eliminating the ability for emergency vehicles to get around. Intersections are not gridlocked, and our guys can't get around. The union public statement is a significant development in the national discussion over the program of the future of urban planning and transportation. There are Vision Zero programs in scores of U.S. cities, and virtually everywhere they're having severe impact on emergency response time. Firefighters, paramedics, and police officers in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, Seattle, Oakland, New York, Boston, and elsewhere has all confirmed to the all-aspect report that lane reductions, particularly the so-called road diets, have increased their response times dramatically. In LA, for example, operational response time at Fire Station 62, located on the infamous Venice Boulevard road diet, increased by 26 seconds between 2018 and the last full year of the diet in 2019. In 2016, the station average response time was 6 minutes, 38 seconds. So far in 2019, it is 7 minutes, 14 seconds. As any first responders will attest to, those 26 seconds cost lives. So we're having the same problem here. And the first thing I said to this council is that, did you speak to our fire department? Silence, not an answer.
I said yes, I told you.
You did. You did. Did they respond to you?
Yes.
And what did they say? Nothing? I mean, I see it right now. I mean, it's ridiculous trying to get around the city with this so-called road diet and all these bike lanes. It really is ridiculous. And it's making it the response time, and wherever you turn around your city, there is always a detour, always. And you're talking about this is be a car-friendly city. It's not car-friendly. I mean, excuse me, bike street. You're making the job of firemen much more difficult. And my biggest concern is Grand Street. You want to put that on a road diet when parents are driving their kids to the hospital because some child is having an asthma attack and they're stuck because we have to make sure the bikes are okay. I mean, you're in the pockets of these people, the bike people. They're pulling you around. But in the meanwhile, professional organizations that deal with this on a daily basis are saying enough of this. You're not going to eliminate the car. I don't care what people say. You're not going to get rid of the car. But you're making getting around the city with emergencies horrible. And you are going to be responsible for someone not reaching the hospital, and you won't hear about it, but it still will be your fault. Thank you very much. And I still want information on the taxes.
Next speaker, Joel Edelitz. Joel? Not here. And Decker Muslim? Jenny Brower?
I'm a member of the same organization.
That.
Keep going, Sean.
Okay. Shamron Ramprom? Is Shamron here? Catherine Tansey?
Where the hell is he reading from?
Good evening, Council President Waterman and City Council members. I am speaking in support of Resolution 20058, which calls upon the White House and Congress to end migrant detention. I have worked with refugees and asylees in Jersey City for more than 15 years at the International Institute of New Jersey, excuse me, Starting Points and St. Aidan's Migrant Center. The administration in Washington has portrayed immigrants as opportunists and criminals, sanctioned the separation of families, established judges as the only arbiters of asylum petitions, used terms such as chain migration instead of family reunification, destroyed the refugee resettlement program, and established one reason, credible fear, as the only basis for asylum. I'd like to tell you about a recent story which is still pending in the courts. A number of volunteers and myself are helping a family from Africa who requested asylum in the United States. They have 7 young children. Their lawyer has told us that their case is complicated. Why? Because only the children and possibly the husband have a credible fear of torture and persecution in their home country. The mother, who had already been tortured, no longer has this fear. So the lawyer told us that the children and father might get asylum, but not the mother. In addition, the children could not petition for their mother. She might be allowed to stay with the family, but she could never become a citizen. I don't understand a policy such as this. Last November, I kicked off at St. Aidan's Campaign for Dignity with this personal story. When I was a child, my parents took my brother, my sister, and me to Europe for education one summer. One of our trips was to Dachau, the site of a concentration camp during World War II. We left that place in silence and in shock. And then I was surprised to notice that the village of Dachau was quite close to the camp. I pointed this out to my father and asked him, didn't those people see anything? Didn't they hear anything? Didn't they do anything? He was silent. So please, council members, adopt Resolution 20058. Thank you.
Catherine, hold on one second. Catherine? Sorry, Catherine, no, come back. Thank you for your comments. A friend told me it's your birthday, so I just wanted to say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Melissa Goodwin.
Hello, good evening. My name is Melissa Goodwin.
Good evening.
I've been coming here since 2017. I'm quite sure y'all all know my problem. I'm quite sure y'all all know my difference. I'm still in the same situation since 2017. I've been in Jersey City all my life, 43 years old, 4 children. I asked for help for so long when I did have my children. My children got taken from me. Jersey City don't believe in rape. My rapists have my children. That's how the system works. I'm really catching an anxiety attack and a panic attack because I've been coming here for so long. I've been living in my car. Jersey City just don't give a shit. I vote every time it's supposed to be vote. Jersey City just don't give a shit. Y'all all sit up on this panel. I'm a nigga who voted y'all in. But guess what? The same nigga is the same nigga who's living in her car. The same nigga who been raped. And I'm the same nigga who my rapist got my children. Y'all tell us to get over it. Y'all tell us it's gonna be okay. I'm the same nigga, and I consider myself as a nigga because I don't consider myself as a human. Because this same human came here in 2017 until I lost everything. I lost 3 apartments, I lost 3 cars, I lost my small-owned business, and I lost my children, all in the same city. I might not look like I'm a person who helped people, but by God, I helped 13 kids. I had 13 kids in my house, and the system turned me down. All because this same nigga who was in the streets selling drugs, when I got up out them streets, I'm the same nigga. The same nigga who was on the front page for domestic violence because my homegirl got beaten. I'm the same nigga that been coming here. I'm the same nigga who was told by the council that they got food in their house. They got a roof over their head. And told me not to come back to their office because I was ready to drag her. I'm the same nigga that been asking, begging, pleading for help. In order for you to get a job at the Sanitary Authority, you had to do things you ain't supposed to. And if you don't keep doing it, you get booted. I'm the same nigga named Melissa Goodwin. When anybody ready to come to me and help me and get up out my car, now for 5 months, August, September, October, November, December, January, oh, excuse me, nigga been in her car for 6 months.
Rendella Gunter.
Good evening. My name is Rendella Gunter, and I reside on Bergen Avenue, where recently y'all zoned Zone 8 and 10. My concern comes from the people that lives on the main streets that adjacent the side blocks that y'all zoned, which is Stegman Avenue, Dwight, and Fulton.
Rendella. Rendella, get to the right.
Our concerns come from the neighbors that reside in the apartment buildings and the houses. Our questions is, where do we supposed to park our cars? Where do we supposed to park at all if we can't park on the zone blocks? We're asking the council to consider the main streets and the parking permits, because I spoke to parking authority and they said anybody that lives on the main street cannot get a parking permit. Also, we asking, why do we have to park 3 blocks away from where we live at? Why do we have to walk where we have to pay? Why do we have to move our cars every 2 hours to avoid a ticket? We're just asking, can we please get a permit for the people that live on the main blocks for these zoned areas?
What street?
The street is Bergen Avenue, but is adjacent to Dwight Street.
Please.
I did speak to parking authority, but they said they spoke to city, and they said that the people that live on Bergen, Martin Luther King, Ocean, Garfield cannot get a permit on these zoned areas.
Is it residential?
I just want to know, where do we supposed to park?
It's a misunderstanding somewhere. It's residential you're talking about.
Yes.
Well, but I think the issue is she lives on Bergen.
I live
so she
on
doesn't
the
live
main
on the
street.
street that has the parking, so she can't get a permit.
which is right now, as of January 21st, I cannot park on the side of my building, which is Kennedy Boulevard and Bergen Avenue. So that's an immediate ticket. So I'm trying to get a resolution before February 3rd for a parking permit to park where I pay rent and to park where I live at. Why should I have to walk 3 blocks from where I live? What was the boundaries and the stipulations when the ordinance went into effect for the people that do live on the main streets?
Yeah, you know, it's a similar case that happened Central Avenue in Jersey City Heights.
But the Heights, everybody has permits. Everybody in the Heights.
Yes. So those kind of things happened years ago in Jersey City Heights too. You know, Central Avenue, east side of Central Avenue is a residential zoning, but west side of Central Avenue is not. So people who leave cannot find a place. If you cross the Central Avenue, they get ticket. So your problem actually, Councilman Robinson can adjust that, the boundary, you know what I'm saying?
And that's what we're asking. Are we allowed in the boundaries where we live at and where we pay rent at? I am adjacent to the corner of the White Street in Bergen, so I'm not able to always find the park on Bergen Avenue.
Right. Correct. So if we extend the boundary, it simply solve your problem.
This is all we're asking.
Bergen Stegman.
Is...
We'll extend the boundaries. Here, get our information with streets you need, okay? Go see my aide over there.
Thank you. The main streets, because we can't zone the main street. We know that already.
No, that's not the truth. That's not the truth.
This is what Parking Authority told me. I spoke to Parking Authority. I was on the phone with them. I actually got cursed out by one of the workers. But they told me because the address says Bergen, we cannot get a permit to park there. So it has to say our license and your registration has to say one of the side blocks, which is Stegman, Dwight, or Fulton.
Okay, so the parking division enforce the parking enforcement based on city ordinance what we creative. So Councilman Robinson will be amend. So we extend the boundary. So people, even though live at their main street, they're able to park those areas, surrounding area. He can able to work it out. So don't worry about it. It's not a big of a deal. He can easily adjust.
We're just trying to avoid the $110 tickets.
Here, take her information, okay?
Thank you.
She'll help you. I'll get it, okay?
So don't worry about it.
All right.
No, he will do that.
We got a full confidence on.
Next speaker, Jason Berg.
Yeah. I just need the streets.
Yep, Jason, I got to the bathroom.
Okay. I have given Sean a pamphlet. It's called We the People Are the Power. The elected are the people's employees, and some folks need to be fired twice, once from their posts and the second for their treason. We don't seek violence, but they fail to reason. When we only have bands of thieves, who do we trust? Who do we believe? Why, it's the people. Not wanting to be deceived. This is by Jason H. Harley-Berg. Please, Jersey City Council members, rescind removing the people's unalienable rights to vote for their chosen board candidates. It's been 30 years since we, the people of Jersey City, have had full control and responsibility to serve ourselves better in a new age for Jersey City Board of Education, students, parents, taxpayers, etc. The real problem of government is that there is no rights as a person. Yet we, the people, the consenters, are government sovereigns, issuing and granting its employees, its public servants, only power and authority to protect and serve us, resulting very poorly. But it's hard for civil servants serving as paper and being two-dimensional and not being flesh and blood. When you are elected, appointed, and hired, employees take an oath of office. You are to protect and serve we the people you serve against foreign and domestic enemies. When you fail to uphold your oaths and obligations, you fail your responsibilities to obey the people's will of the present, which makes your actions treasonous with the extreme punishment of death by the law of the land, common law, common sense, the Constitution. Everyone calls America a democracy, yet the truth is Americans' founders created a nation to be a republic based on the Indian nation of Iroquois Confederacy Constitution. We use voting powers to pass statute laws, state and federal codes, and municipal ordinances. Therefore, America's elected officials in city councils, state, and federal senates and assemblies must hear the pros and cons of the constituents, their electors, but you don't, especially when the majority present and voice their dissent to X topics. They and you, the elected, are responsible to vote accordingly, but at last, they and you are contrarians, voting their party line or the mayor's wayward ways and willing puppets. You council members have been disenfranchising us from your beginnings. Your ill-mindedness creates distress to Jersey City. Do the people need them and you? No. No address. Affronting the people with disdain and disingenuous behavior is such a pain, and if Thomas was here, he would say, you know glass, but you're totally a pain in the people's ass. Hemorrhoids can be removed, but B-U-T-T, from themselves will create clear thinkers and sharp minds. You would only lose themselves in the supplanted minds, leaving vacancies for better times, while weeping the rest at the ease. Even with surgery, will they do as they please, do best? At last, there's only gas, and we the people must amass, fixing our society as we know will do the best. The community components of ordinances must file suits to rid themselves of the bats wasting taxpayers' dollars makes no sense. And jumping along for a network of series, the incredible world of wonderful, colorful corruption is right in front of us all, and the band of thieves don't want to be accountable to us at all for the misdeeds, misreadings. They and you will give us excuses why they failed and fell down. But folks, if it's never to be listened to, use why you are not quartered and taken off the people's team. And I leave this. We need the people to take note, and we need to be applying our Declaration of Independence with the 9th and 10th Amendments to rid ourselves of this establishment's corporate defrauders, colorists, etc. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. God bless.
Just wanted to recognize Councilperson Ridley here. She was here at 7:38 p.m., so now we have 8 members in attendance. Next speaker is Mia Skanga.
Okay. I haven't been here in a while. Wow. Good evening. I'm here to talk about Resolution 20-058, which I'm totally in favor of. I'm astounded for a country of immigrants as the United States that they would detain children in cages, and many of them dying and mistreated. I mean, I'm of Italian descent. My mother was 7 months pregnant when she came to the United States, and she was carrying me. And she came with my aunt, who was 6 months pregnant with my cousin John. And I do have family members, primarily those in Florida, and even in Pennsylvania, who are anti-immigrant, and you have to constantly remind them that there was a similar situation in the 20s. It was called the Immigration Act of 1924, and it was very, very anti-Italian, and then eventually got reversed later on. So it's nothing new. It's just that, you know, now with climate change and gang warfare and everything else, I mean, these people are looking for the same as what my parents came for, a better life, because there was no work in southern Italy. And I'm sure this council is going to see fit, because the city government typically has always been pro-immigrant, to approve this. But it is a shame that we even have to propose a resolution like this, but considering what's happening, we really do need to. So I hope you'll consider it, vote yes, and encourage other towns in New Jersey to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Sabrina Harold? No. Not here. Heather?
Hi. Ciciola.
There you go.
C-I-O-C-I-O-L-A.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jersey City Council President Waterman, and Jersey City Council members for allowing me to speak in support of the resolution to reunify migrant families, release them from detention, and afford them due process in immigration. Special thanks to Council people Solomon, Prince Airy, and Lavaro for sponsoring it. As I said, my name is Heather Ciciola, and I am a co-chair of the New Jersey Jewish Coalition for Refugees, which is part of a national grassroots advocacy network coordinated by HIAS. On Father's Day this past year, I took a trip to Homestead in Florida with HIAS and other community advocacy groups to participate in a vigil to show support to the children living in detention there and to share our abhorrence for the practice of detaining children and separating families. We stood for hours in the pouring rain on the public land outside the facility, which was at the time the largest for-profit detention center for children in the country. We marched outside the fence, chanting as loudly as we could in English and Spanish, "We love you, we see you, you are not alone." To children who were there without their parents, who were forbidden from any physical contact, including hugs from siblings and friends. We stood on ladders so we could see them and they could see us over the fence, waving and holding signs. The children waved back. Seeing a facility like that, seeing from far away the children in the yard as they crossed from one tent structure to another in uniforms and orange baseball hats, had a tremendous impact on me. It was beyond heartbreaking. Imagine how dangerous things must be where they are from in order to make the risk of leaving home worthwhile. When they are treated this way through our policies and at our detention centers, it behooves us to stand up and say, "Not in our name." But the reality is that inhumane treatment is happening every day in our name. It is happening at the border, where we are taking medication away from children. It is happening in detention centers where we refuse to allow doctors to provide flu shots even when they are free. It is happening when children die alone in a cell from a preventable illness due to neglect and woefully inadequate medical care. And let's not forget that we have our own detention centers funded by ICE right here in New Jersey. All of these things and more are happening on our watch. People often ask me if I think it matters to demonstrate, to meet and correspond with elected officials, and to speak out publicly on these topics. I always say yes, because ultimately we only have two choices: to do something or to do nothing. What that something looks like can be anything, but we all know what doing nothing looks like. We've seen it in hindsight when we reflect on the greatest shames in the history of this country and the world. We often look back with regret or with wonder at how people could be silent in the face of such atrocities. With the benefit of that knowledge, it is our responsibility to speak out against inhumane treatment when and where we see it, and to call on our elected officials at all levels to right and prevent the wrongs that we see unfolding every day, to remind them that they work for us and we just won't stand for this. Someday, if we are lucky, someone will ask us what we did during these times. This resolution gives you the opportunity to do something that can make you proud when we answer that question. It provides a tiny window to show foresight, courage, and compassion in speaking out to help ensure that Jersey City is on the right side of what is happening today. Tonight, Jersey City has a chance to go on record and tell the future what your values were, and that you stood up and spoke out in the face of the inhumanity being perpetrated by our government. I commend the Jersey City Council for considering this step and hope that you see fit to pass this resolution. Thank you again for your time, for your commitment, and for helping to lead the way in New Jersey and the country in demanding a more humane and welcoming world for us all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Khan.
Good evening, Council. My name is Michelle Khan, and I'm a resident of Woolbridge, New Jersey. Today, I stand here in front of you in regards to Resolution 20-058 to support families like mine who have suffered due to family separation and immigration detention. There are severe mental health effects and trauma on each person who has to experience family separation and immigration detention. At the age of 19, I was separated from my father. And at the age of 26, I was separated from my brother due to deportation. It's caused me trauma and depression that will stay with me forever. Immigration detention caused my mentally ill brother, who was raised in the US since age 1, severe PTSD. I can't even begin to think about the effects it has on children and families at the border. We need to reunite families, end immigration detention, and the cruel practices of ICE. Please consider supporting this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I didn't even know you was going.
Next speaker, Simon Taylor.
Thank you. They misspelled my name. My name is Simone Taylor.
Simone, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is it S-I-M-O-N?
O-N-E.
O.
Yes.
O-N-E?
Yes.
I am so sorry about that. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm here like the other resident was a few minutes ago, talking about the council in Zone 10. Okay. I, too, am a resident on Bergen Avenue, so again, we are going to be affected with this new zone. They did not consider Bergen Avenue, Martin Luther King, Ocean Avenue, and Garfield Avenue residents. I already have a difficult time parking now because Bergen Avenue actually is part of Zone 8 on the Audubon Park side because they're by NJCU. So when I come home at night at like 3 o'clock, I can't even get a park in front of my building. The other thing they didn't consider was that on all of those streets that I just mentioned, there are bus stops on there. So that eliminates at least 2 parking spots on each of those blocks. So I'm concerned. It's not fair for me as a tax-paying resident to have to walk 4 or 5 blocks just to park my car. And the other thing that I really think that the council needs to look at is that in the other parking zones around the city, like zones 1 through 7, they're only 8 to 5 daily, okay? And the Heights, it covers all of the residents. But particularly in Zone 10, the ordinance goes in effect from 6 a.m. in the morning until 12 midnight, Monday through Friday. And on Saturday, it's from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night. So that means on Bergen, Martin Luther King, Ocean, and Garfield Avenues, those are my only means of parking. I can't park on those side streets, and I have to park on them now because there's no space on Bergen Avenue. So I'm just asking, again, I called parking authority. They told me because I live on Bergen, I do not qualify to get a parking permit. So I think it's just very extreme for that zone, and I think that that needs to be looked at. It seems very discriminating. It's just not fair for me, and even if I find somewhere to park, I'd have to run back out to my car every 2 hours until midnight every single day if I cannot get a park.
You know, so I can say that legally, Councilman Robinson able to prepare for the new zoning boundary residential. But meantime, I know a lot of people scared to put enforcement today. I think Councilman speak with the mayor, maybe delay it a little bit till we pass the ordinance, you know what I'm saying? So you don't have to worry. He's a good council person. He can work it out.
Okay, they just started putting up parking signs today, actually, in my area.
Yeah.
But we'll make sure we'll speak to the parking authority so that they can delay until we get this amendment done.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about too much.
Thank
He
you.
can do it.
Thank you for hearing me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Robinson.
Next speaker, Maureen Rios.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maureen Rios. I'm the parent council of PS 34. I have sent emails to some of the councilwomen on the panel, and we have spoken. I have went to captain meetings. Sometimes when you go to these captain meetings, they don't cancel on you. You standing in the cold, in the rain, nobody tell you they cancel, you have to go home. There's a drug problem around PS 34. Our children has to see hundreds of dope bags around our school grounds. This is like an everyday thing, and it's not because our Jersey City Board of Education groundkeepers doesn't clean our grounds. They clean them, and when you come back in the morning and the kids are going to school, they're back on the ground. Alcohol bottles. I even went to a board meeting. I asked for them to cover a tree that was a famous tree. Everybody sit there and do their stuff there. Even people putting, poking themselves with needles and stuff, and the kids in the school. And we got that done. They put a gate, it's blocked off. But guess what? Now they lean on the gate. You got the guy that come around there, he has 2 pit bulls, and he come around the school with the 2 pit bulls, no leash. You got the lady when school getting dismissed. I know she has a problem. She goes on wait, right on wait, and Martin Luther King, take her clothes off, put water over her body. You got a cop on Warner. You telling me if I see this, the cop on Warner doesn't see this situation? All these problems around our school and nobody see this? I asked for police to come to our kids. They got a courtyard. They can't even use their courtyard. My principal had to switch the courtyards. The kids on the other side of the courtyard now, they have dumpsters on that side. They have an electrical box on that side. They have a fire escape on that side. How can the kids play on that kind of environment? No way. So now they can't play on their regular courtyard because of all the situations that's happening on Wade between Kennedy Boulevard and Martin Luther King. And we can't even get no help. I reach out to the chief. I reach out to the captain to try to get a policeman there when the kids on recess, or either when the kids, we have a program, 6 in the evening, the kids go home. The program started with 88 kids, we down to 55. Why? Parents don't want to send their kids to this program. It's an outlet for the kids. They don't want to go. The parents don't want to send them, they're afraid. It's a problem. My niece went to the laundromat on Sussie's. These same people that be on this block, they went on Sussie's. She was in Sussie's with her family doing laundry. What happened? She got robbed. Guess what? She waited 6 hours for a policeman to show up. And when he showed up, she said, my credit card is gone, my phone is gone, my ID is gone. These people got my information where I live at because she had her license and her coat. They took her coat. And guess what the cop said to her? Oh, those things are replaceable. Don't worry about that. Who talks to somebody like that? You got a child that got jumped. She goes tell the police on Warner. I can't tell you who he is because we don't know. I found out this information the other day. She tells them, oh, I'm about to get jumped by the group behind me. Oh, well, guess what? Welcome to Jersey City. Who talks to our children like this? And let me tell you, I love our policemen because I do work closely with them. But I'm gonna tell you something. I asked for a cop. We can't even get a cop to come to our school at 2:45 dismissal, 6 o'clock in the evening so our kids could get home safely. When we said summertime's gonna come, like when they're gonna have recess, I would love for a cop to be there. Guess what they told me? What you want us to do, put a cop on each corner? Well, guess what? If that's what's gonna take to have our kids safe, then yes, this is what we want. Because I'm tired. I don't sleep. I go every day.
Please hold it down so we can hear her.
Every day I go to that school. I go to work, I come back, I go to that school. I go at 6 o'clock like I'm the police, making sure our children get home safe. And I'm here to advocate for our kids and our community. I live around there for 20 plus years, and it's getting worse. And we can't continue like this. We have to work together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll look into it.
Peter Gagnon. Peter.
Good evening, Honorable Council, members. My name is Peter Gagnon. My wife, Kathleen, and I live in McGinley Square with our 3 boys. One of them's hiding over there, Flynn, Reese, and Drake. 2 weeks ago, we took the boys, 3 days before their birthday, to see Cartography, a play about refugees. The story follows 4 youths from 4 different places all over the world as they find themselves in detainment, awaiting a judgment on their status to live in their hopefully future home. The actors then turned this play on its head as they revealed to the audience that they themselves in real life are refugees and immigrants escaping the harsh realities of their homelands. This play had such a profound impact on Reese and Drake here that they both decided that in lieu of their birthday gifts, they wanted us to donate money to refugee charities in Jersey City, namely Welcome Home. The impact of my son's kindness and empathy in giving up their birthday gifts should not be lost on us here today. Jersey City is the 2nd most diverse city in the nation and home to refugees and immigrants from all over the world, including my wife. We as a city should follow these 10-year-olds' lead and support the legislation in order to help reunite refugee families and give all human beings their right to due process, something ingrained in our country's DNA. Thank you for your support on this resolution. In addition, and in a similar vein, I would like to remind us all here that this country is built on the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those dreams are nearly impossible to realize when your life is in constant danger and your own city cannot protect you. I have read the Jersey City Community Violence Needs Assessment, which the city paid for, and I would strongly urge the council to implement the recommendations put forth in that document and then truly make an impact in the areas where violence is concentrated so that everyone in the city can realize the dreams of our collective home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadja Rutkowski.
Good evening. Rutkowski is misspelled.
Can you spell that for me?
The Y is actually an I.
Okay. I apologize.
No worries. Good evening. Nadia Rutkowski, a neighbor resident of Hoboken. I like coming to Jersey City, shopping, eating, events, because also I feel safe here, and I feel safe in Hoboken. But when the first travel ban happened about 3 years ago, I started not feeling so safe. Because while I may not look like one, I may not act like one, or I may not sound like one, I am one. I am an immigrant. I'm from Germany, and I've been here for 28 and a half years. And I've been going through all the legal steps, and yet I'm still not a citizen. So in order to feel safe in Hoboken, I actually helped make it a fair and welcoming city. And I helped Hudson County get rid of the ISIS 287G agreement. I started to feel somewhat safe again, but no one Not one person in the United States of America should ever feel unsafe, especially children. So I'm here today to thank you for putting forward this resolution to help reunite migrant families. Like so many families these days, torn apart by this so-called system, my family was separated as well. Luckily, my parents were not locked up in cages, nor was I detained because I was their child, but because actually it happened under Obama. The system has been broken for decades, yet this current administration has taken it to an unimaginable level. I recently came across a quote from Nelson Mandela, and granted it's about poverty, I think it really easily applies to immigration. Poverty is not natural. It is man-made. And overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is an act of justice. So we have to bring justice to the families who were separated, and many of them didn't do anything wrong. Seeking asylum at a port of entry is not illegal. And if they, for some odd reason, did do something wrong, they have the American right under the Constitution to defend themselves in the court of law. Innocent until proven guilty, correct? And while they defend a civil disobedience, being undocumented is a civil disobedience like a parking ticket. Why? Why would you ever take a child away from a parent? It's appalling. It's disgusting, it's un-American, and it's inhumane. For those who are still against helping our brothers and sisters who are seeking refuge, here are two further examples of why immigrants' cases were not just handled falsely, but also illegally. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution states that no person, not a citizen, not an immigrant, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And even if you were to argue that being undocumented were a criminal offense, well, the Sixth Amendment is right here. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall have the assistance of counsel for his defense. That is in the United States Constitution, and by now I should know, I am actually studying for my US citizenship test in 2 weeks from today. Hoboken City Council passed this resolution unanimously last week. So whatever I can do to help to get this resolution passed tonight or hopefully in the near future, and whatever comes beyond that, please know that I'll be a proud German-American citizen helping you make a wrong a right or turn injustice into justice. You have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Natalia Afi. If I mispronounce your name, please forgive me.
Good evening. Am I permitted to hold this up while I talk? Thank you. First, good evening, thank you. And I want to say that it was very important to hear so many people speak in favor of immigrants. I too know what it's like to have a mother deported. Mine was deported in 2002. I was fortunate to get her back almost more than a decade later. And the subject on which I want to speak connects, like all human issues, immigrants, properties, blighted properties, homes, taxpayers. These are our issues that we deal with every day. And so I want to bring your attention back to something that I have spoken here about before, which is the area along Center Street where I live, also known as Bates Redevelopment Plan. Just to let the council members know, the top two photographs depict two homes, 40 Center Street and 38 Center Street, as they looked in April of 2017. The photograph with the people in it show the residents, Debbie and Andy Rampasad, who were the owners of 40 Center Street, no longer are owners, and Joe D'Souza, also known as Buddha, who was the owner of 38 Center Street. His house got boarded up a few weeks ago by Manhattan building companies. And the bottom photograph is January 10th. This is what their homes look like now. As you can see, they're neither blighted or decrepit or unkempt. And it's important that I discuss this today. So a couple of years ago, JCRA designated Manhattan building companies over 4 square blocks along Center Street, subsequently sanctioning aggressive building tactics. Tonight, we spoke a lot about blighted properties, rights of immigrants, and these, my neighbors, my former neighbors, were first-generation immigrants whose houses were not blighted. In fact, they were the nicest homes in all of our 4 blocks. Yet, according to the existing redevelopment plan, small homes along Center Street are to be acquired. And it also says in the redevelopment plan that if relocation of people in this entire process becomes necessary, that this process will receive the careful attention of local officials. And this is what I want to point out. So we did receive careful attention of local officials in this process. Primarily, Mr. Robinson will remember that he gave me a heads up about Mr. Jason Skolowski, who would call us to inquire about purchasing properties along Center Street. Also, there was council members, Ms. Waterman, Mr. Lavaru came to our street along with Manhattan Building Company's representatives, John Palumbo and Alex Wright, which to me was kind of hopeful, thinking that finally our local officials are paying attention, which means that they might protect us in this process. However, I guess it didn't work, or worked in the other direction, because first house got boarded up shortly after. Before it got boarded up, I was very sad to see an article by my councilman, as you remember, when you wrote that our neighborhood consists of vacant lots and mostly empty industrial buildings that were abandoned. We weren't abandoned when you wrote that, but we certainly look abandoned now. These were really good people, and I will really miss them. Sorry. It just saddens me that this careful attention that is mentioned in this redevelopment plan seems to work in favor of developers and not in favor of us, of taxpayers, of voters, of your constituents. The poster that I'm using, it's a bit ironic. I wanted to show you. You may remember this. Your campaign people came to us in 2017 asking to put these up on our homes, and we did. A lot of good it did us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Davis.
Good afternoon. I live on Dwight between Martin Luther King and Ocean. It's not safe where I live at. We just had a shooting a couple of months or weeks ago. I'm here because I'm trying to obtain a caregiver's permit for my daughter. I've been here all my life. I'm trying to see how can we obtain this and make it cheaper for people like myself to obtain something for my medical daughter. I spoke to a couple of people on this issue because my son, I can't have him on my lease because of Section 8 or whatever, but he's constantly there. And he's constantly taking my daughter here and there to appointments, and my fiance. And I just want to know, how could we make this better for the people in our neighborhood to obtain this issue, you know, because they were saying $300 for caregivers. I'm her caregiver. I'm her mother. I'm not a caregiver. I'm her mom. And my thing is, I've been here for like 7 years where I live at. And the people that did this, they didn't explain to us the whole situation when they came upon and made us sign this list. So I'm trying to just figure out how could we make this affordable and obtain something for my daughter. I have a medical daughter. She has, she also has educational issues than from the state. So I need a permit for my daughter because I do not drive, and they're constantly there for my support. And I'm just trying to find out, because I reached out, you know, to a couple of people, you know, I'm not gonna say no names, and I'm trying to just figure this out, you know, like how can I obtain a permit because I only have a week and a half to go.
A week and a half to go for what? You said you only have...
Before I get this permit. Like I said, my son is here, but like I said, I have other issues with my son, you know, because of Section 8. You know, I can't have him on my lease per se, right. But you know he's there, you know, just like your child or anybody else's child, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna put my child out for nobody. So what I'm trying to ask is, you know, he's there, but he had to change his address. You know how I'm saying, to, you know, to make it, you know. But my thing is, I'm trying to see how can I work with this.
Speak to him. He's going to come and talk.
I know, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James Dabrowski.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Dabrowski, and I'm here tonight because last month I read a very inspiring NJ.com article entitled, "Diverse Town is the First to Oppose the Detention of Immigrants, More May Follow." After reading the uplifting piece, I immediately reached out to the awesome mayor of that caring community of Montgomery Township, Sadaf Jaffer, who quickly put me in contact with the amazing person who started this powerful initiative, Afshin Shamsi. They kindly sent me a copy of a compassionate resolution calling on our elected officials at all levels to reunify migrant families who have been horrifically separated due to our current administration's evil and unforgivable zero-tolerance policy, to release them from detention, and to afford them due process in immigration proceedings. I shared it with a few immigrants' rights advocates, and they all told me such a symbolic resolution is really the bare minimum we can do, and that passing it should be a no-brainer. By the end of December, I was thrilled to see that another caring New Jersey community, Bound Brook, had also just passed the resolution. And unlike Montgomery, Bound Brook did so without the support of their Republican mayor, who callously refused to even sign it, their 2 Republican members of the council, who coldly voted against it, and even 1 Democrat council member, who cowardly abstained from voting. James, move back. Too close to the mic, sorry. I'm very passionate about this. I want to give a quick shout out to Bound Brook Council President Abel Gomez for daring to lead and having the courage and conviction to get his town on the right side of history despite such heartless opposition. Abel also happens to be a Perth Amboy native, and I soon learned we have a few mutual friends, as I've been a health and physical education teacher at E.J. Patton Elementary School in Perth Amboy for 15 years now. Shout out to my amazing students and colleagues. You know, as you can probably tell, I've been anxious about this all day, and I actually confided in one of my 4th grade students this morning about why. And they told me that they were very proud of me for being an upstander and not a bystander. That meant the world to me and reminded me that it's okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to look the other way because we're afraid. There are 3 excuses I've been hearing from so-called leaders who oppose this resolution. 1, it's not a local issue, they say. 2, we have never passed a resolution like this before, and if we were to start now, we'd be pressured to take a stand on all kinds of other issues. And 3, we're worried about how some members of our community would respond if we were to pass it. Wow. These are all terrible excuses. First, this is indeed a local issue, as most of our communities indeed have many undocumented community members who do not feel seen, safe, or supported at all right now. Second, not taking a stand simply because we've never done it before is poor and cowardly leadership, as the job of our leaders should be to move us forward, not take us backward or keep us stuck in the stagnant waters of the status quo. Lastly, we've all hopefully been celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I hope we all realize that his fight is far from over, and we must continue his courageous work of standing up against injustice and effectuating real change. If we let those who want to keep things the way they've always been stop us from doing what is right and just, then the fight to do better has already been lost. Change can be uncomfortable. Real change usually is at first, but we must never put our comfort ahead of our fellow human beings' lives. And to those who hear this message and will still disappointingly prefer what Dr. King called in his famous letter from a Birmingham jail, a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who say, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believe they can set the timetable for another human's freedom, who live by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advise marginalized and oppressed people to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. So in the spirit of Dr. King, which I hope is still strongly present in our hearts, let us truly honor his life and legacy and choose love over fear and hate, and move forward from being bystanders to becoming upstanders. Tonight, quite literally, under the light of Lady Liberty's lamp, let's stand with and stand up for the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Thank you, Council, for listening.
Thank you. Michael Griffin.
Michael Griffin.
Michael Griffin.
I'm not Michael Griffin. I just wanted to say that I was number 12, and I would still like to speak if you can add me on at the end.
No.
The answer is no.
You have to be here at the time of your, when it's your turn to speak. If we allow that, then we're going to allow, we're going to have to do that all the time. That's unfortunate. We apologize.
Okay.
No.
Wait now. Let's don't get disrespectful here. And let's just go through the names, okay? Could we just do that? Everybody signed up. We're going through the names.
Okay. Michael, ready?
Action. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a happy new year. I want to first start off by thanking those from the City Council who reached out to Pamela Johnson, in reference to the violence needs assessment. However, I just want to give a perspective of how important it is to implement these recommendations. So the last council meeting was January 8th, 2020, and there was a collective that stood alongside Pamela Johnson as she insisted that these recommendations be implemented. Since then, a man has been shot on Oak Street and MLK Drive. That was January 10th, 2020. A 29-year-old man was injured during a shooting at Crescent and Municipal Avenue. That was January 11th, 2020. A 16-year-old male was shot on Stegman and Ocean Avenue, January 12th, 2020. A man was stabbed on Johnston Avenue, January 12th, 2020. There was a double shooting on Bidwell and Ocean Avenue where a 15-year-old girl and an 18-year-old young man were both injured, January 13th, 2020. A man was shot on Van Nostrand Avenue, January 19th, 2020, the day before we celebrated the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. As a reminder, $139,000 of taxpayers' money went towards this study. The study has been completed, and recommendations have been put forth. Just to give you a perspective, so after the meeting, we were told by those who funded this study, Health and Human Services, that they did not agree with the recommendations that were put forth. And the handout that you have are the recommendations that they want to put forth. And, you know, I mean, quite honestly, they're not helpful. The recommendations that was put forth by CCI, they talked about everything from interpersonal violence and trauma. They talk about develop restorative justice options for interpersonal conflicts, develop platforms for the youth so they can have input on policy-making decisions, develop opportunities to incubate and grow grassroots organizations. These recommendations that I just read are the recommendations that administrators in this administration disagree with. They want to put messages on the kiosks. I don't know how many people that we are actually targeting will actually read these kiosks, if there are kiosks in their neighborhoods. Health, wellness, and other things. There are not many, if any, credible messengers on that list that I gave to you, people that are on the ground every day, that's been transparent with you guys, that's been working together as a coalition, and I'm talking about nonprofits and other entities and individuals who's been coming together for years, who had recommendations already, where, you know, we shouldn't be at this point. We should be at the tail end or phase 2 or 3 of implementing other recommendations to reduce the crime in our city. So I just want to say, you know, again, thank you for reaching out to Pamela Johnson so we can go ahead and get moving on these meetings. However, you know, during that time, while these meetings are being scheduled, violence is still taking place in our community. Young men and women are being injured in shootouts and stabbings, domestic violence, and all other forms of violence. So it's January. Hopefully I'll see y'all end of January, early February. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, I have a question.
Hold on.
Excuse me?
Michael. I have a quick question because I have a meeting about this in the morning. These suggestions are different than the ones that are in the study, or these are the same ones?
No, those are different. Those are.
This is what came out of the last meeting.
That's what came out of that came from the Office of Health and Human Services.
Okay. But you want what's in the study is what you're saying?
Yes, not that.
All right. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you.
Really? Just excuse me, Michael Griffin. I just have a simple question. Maybe I'm a little dumb, but when I see this paper, the violence reduction actually plan, but when I see that, just talk about the healthier choice in meeting after meeting after meeting, that's the reduction plan?
That is the plan. Okay.
Please don't. Keep it quiet out there.
Again, so
when you do that, we can't.
Health and Human Services disagreed with the implementations that I read off to you, such as getting our youth involved in policy making, creating safe havens for them, things like that. That document, which you have, is the alternative. That's what Health and Human Services came up with.
You have to become a Health and Human Service or Recreation Department. We have created another division called Youth Development.
Okay.
I don't know, so because this is my problem, is I'm too straightforward. When I see this one,
I feel the same way.
You feel the same way, right?
Yes.
I didn't see any specific violence reduction plan. I cannot see just the list of all the meetings.
Right.
But meeting not going to solve the, reduce any violence. I mean, I just want to make sure, you know what I'm saying, because you do a great job. I hope everybody understands. Michael Griffin had such a great job involved with the community and the business community. So, but I think that this kind of a presentation, I think more make us specific plans what you like to have it. Instead of meeting after meeting after, or same meeting, healthier choice. Healthier choice is going to be not going to reduce violence in that area or any area, you know what I'm saying? So,
agreed. And again, that's a document that came out of Health and Human Services. And if you need the recommendations that
this is come from the Health and Human Service?
Yes.
Just Michael, to be clear, did they give you, that says violence reduction strategic plan, this was part of this package?
All I did was print it out.
That's all you did.
That's all I did was print it out.
Recommendation.
I mean,
I saw the recommendation. This doesn't line up with it.
Okay.
Right.
So this is come from our health department?
Yes, your department, sir.
You gotta be kidding.
I wish I was.
We'll
follow. Denise has a meeting in the morning, and so we'll follow through like that, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It may as said.
Good evening, Council President. I'd like to congratulate you for taking this auspicious position. Council members, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Imtiaz Sayed. I'd like to read this. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these the homeless, tempest tossed to me, I lift my lamp besides the golden door. Very powerful poem written by Emma Lazarus in 1883. I'm here to support the resolution to reunite the families. I've been a resident of Jersey City for the past 40 years. And I've seen the two American dreams. When I landed here as an immigrant, believe you me, the officers at the airport welcomed me as an immigrant, saluted me, and no custom formalities. I was offered to take my exit. Now, what has changed? What has changed, and a change in immediately in the past 3-4 years? I'll continue on that Emma Lazarus' famous 1883 sonnet, The New Colossus, have seemed more visible since Donald Trump's election. They can be found on the news and on the posters, in the tweets, and in the streets. Lines 10 and 11 of the poem are quoted with the most frequency. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And often by those aiming to highlight a contrast between the Lazarus humanitarian vision of the nation and the president's divisive rhetoric. I appear here today on behalf of the Immigration Affairs Commission. I'm the chairman of the commission, and only this could happen in Jersey City, the most diverse city. Then an immigrant is a chairman, the first chairman of the Immigration Commission. I salute the city for this. I appear here in support of the proposed resolution calling upon the White House and Congress to reunify migrant families, release them from the detention, and afford them due process in immigration proceedings. Councilwoman Waterman, we urge you to call upon New Jersey's members of the Congress, namely Albie Osiris, Donald Payne, Senators Cory Booker, Robert Menendez, the senator, the ranking member of a Foreign Relations Committee, to stand up to the current administration and uphold the values of Jersey City. America is a nation of immigrants and has flourished because of immigrant communities. The Immigration Commissioner's membership is comprised of many who are immigrants themselves and advocate daily on behalf of the immigrant community. Jersey City needs to be on the correct side of the history and take a stand against the injustices that are occurring at our borders as well within the interior of our country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Russo.
The next page, Rich, the next page.
I was actually here to talk about affordable housing, but I didn't know if I could cede my time.
No, just talk. Don't worry, we have it covered.
She'll go later.
No. We have it covered.
We'll take care of it.
So, just again, I can't solve affordable housing in the time allotted here. So, but I did want to come in and just offer some observations. And Councilman Solomon, I know that you posted recently about VYV's affordable housing initiative, which I applaud. I think, you know, any developer that wants to provide affordable housing, I mean, I would argue they have an obligation to do it, but in any case, well, the city has the obligation. But in any case, VYV, just as an example, you posted that, that's great. I know that, and I want to bring, you know, awareness to it. Anyone who, you know, wants to apply should apply. They got to do it by the end of the month. Of course, though, when you scroll over and you look at the fine print, you realize that the terms and conditions of the policy include things such as criminal background checks, credit score. There's also a corridor of, you know, you have to make a certain amount of money, and then you can't make too much money. I understand that. The problem that I have is with, you know, if we were gonna have a commitment to rolling out affordable housing in our city, why don't we not do the bare minimum? Why don't we not just meet our obligations under the state constitution? Why don't we force or have developers where it's not a Section 8 issue or you know, federal law issue, why not support an ordinance or a resolution or something that will require these developers to not have more stringent criminal background checks than what is required under federal law? Otherwise, I think you're gonna find that it's an immense deterrent for folks who really are in need of this housing. I'm not so sure that, I mean, look, this has been an issue for decades. What I love about New Jersey is the Mount Laurel doctrine, which I won't bore everyone to death, but New Jersey is super interesting because they have this law that says that we have a constitutional duty, municipalities have a constitutional duty to ensure affordable housing for low income, and it has to be realistic. So every time the Supreme Court has reviewed this issue, they have said no one is actually really, you know, well, and I shouldn't say no one, but a lot of these cases we're seeing municipalities not, you know, abiding, they might abide by the letter, but they may not abide by the spirit. And so, you know, I would hope that this council, and again, I know it's the zoning board, the planning board, it's everyone, but I would hope that this council would consider a resolution, ordinance, something that would require developers, whether it's not Section 8 involved or federal law involved, to essentially
not require these more stringent criminal background checks, because I think it's honestly, it's prohibitive. It creates a stigma between residents already from day one. You're gonna, I mean, think about the elitist message it kind of sends. It's really like, you know, we'll give you affordable housing, but you have to be like, you know, tolerable, or, you know, it's a form of NIMBYism that I'm just very, you know, not in my backyard. That, you know, I get that homeowners, they're worried about their value and their property values and everything, but, you know, everyone's worried about that. I guess at a certain point, it's a bridge too far, and I would just like to see, you know, things like the criminal background checks, you know, ideally, if we can, go away. And the other thing is, too, if we're going to start talking about converting vacant lots, looking at that, I know the city of Newark in particular has done a lot of this, where they're working with, you know, folks vacant and underdeveloped lots to try to bring permanent supportive housing initiatives. So that's really designed for, that's different. It's for the chronically homeless who have mental illness. I would love to see more of that in Jersey City. You know, I think that's it for today. We're not going to solve this problem, but I would love to see maybe a little bit more involvement and say to these developers, hey guys, you know, if you're going to be committed to affordable housing, really be committed to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kabili Tayari. Not here. Karen Van Open.
She spoke before. No.
No. Ready?
I heard you say no. I was like,
No, not to you. Sorry.
I know it was last time.
No.
Second time this month.
And thank you for closing the door earlier. Appreciate that.
Welcome. I'm a bit of a doer. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm here to speak on Resolution 2058, but I would first like to say that I hope that you're going to help Maureen, I believe her name is, because when I was here last time, we heard a lot about how the city can't, or the council can't do anything about schools, and that's why I wanted to have appointed people. Well, this definitely is city, so I'm hoping you give her some attention and something gets done. Regarding the resolution, I believe that James was right when he said that this should be a no-brainer. I can't see how there would be one person on this council who isn't voting on this, who isn't voting yes on this, because it seems, I believe he mentioned bare bones. That said, I'm glad you're doing it, because at least we're talking about it, and hopefully it will set an example for towns where it is way more difficult to get this through. When I heard Alan speak about his story with immigrants, I thought back when I was in Belgium. I befriended people from Eastern Europe who came, Jewish people who came as refugees. And we had a similar situation where we would talk a little broken English and befriended each other over borscht soup and that kind of stuff. And those memories came back when I was here as an immigrant, because that's when I really understood how hard it was for them to move from one country to my country. You kind of have to go through it to understand what it all means, and when they throw a bunch of paperwork at you and say, here, you got to do all this, or unfortunately, some don't even have a line to stand in. Those are the people that I'm definitely here to speak up for tonight. Like, for example, my friend Maria. She's from Guatemala, born, married to somebody from here, and she had to go back in order to get her immigration papers sorted out. She has a son, a daughter, same as my son. I hope I get through this. And she's been there for a year and 3 months. And I heard today from her sister that she likely has another 6 months waiting time until paperwork are done. Her kid this week has a birthday, the same week as my son. I can't stop thinking about it. She's been separated from her daughter for more than a year, and vice versa, and her husband. So when we think about these things, think about what we're doing locally, because we can pinpoint at the White House all we want. Look at what's happening in Hudson County. We're making money on this stuff. We're still making money on this stuff. We're making money on Essex County. We're making money on it in Bergen. I could give you numbers from last year. Essex, 49 million. We made 24 million. Bergen, 16 million. Numbers might be different from last year because the numbers I have now were from the year before. I know in Hudson County they are trying to step back. They already have less numbers. They're trying to do something with Mercer because it's all about making up the money, right? In Essex County, DiVincenzo, he said that having this ICE contract is an innovative way to keep taxes low. There you go. We have immigrants in our empty jail beds, so now we're making money and our people don't have to pay taxes. I personally don't care. Tax me more if that's what it's going to take. I know not everybody is going to agree with that, but we would lose 4.4 million or something in Jersey City from county money. We'll come up with it some other way. I'll bake some cookies or something. Maybe other people can do something also. It's insane that we have to think that way. I see my time is almost up, so I learned in Jersey City, from people in Jersey City, I'm surprised how many people I know here today, that we have to be upstanders. So we can be a sanctuary city all we want, we can have resolutions all we want, we can have commissions all we want, but if we profit from this, from immigrations in empty jail beds, we are complicit. Think about that.
Thank you. Peter Goportz. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
No, Peter Gorbitz.
There you go.
I came up here twice, and for other reasons, and now I'm up here, and my name is has been pronounced, but wasn't actually on the list. So I appreciate this surprise. Thank you very much for. I'm grateful for the council for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am a former Jersey City resident and a prospective Jersey City resident who I go to the synagogue here. I have many, there are many activities that bind me, whether I like it or not, to this city. It's a city I care about. One of them is a small refugee support organization. And one of the activities we do is stand in one spot of Jersey City near the Grove Street Path Station and raise awareness about the challenges that refugees face and about their presence in this community, in this broad community. Actually, Alan Menta and Imtiaz Syed have already raised a couple of points that come to mind. One thing we do is simply stand and to speak with people who come up. The number of people who approach us to express their opinions is really surprising. We don't solicit opinions. People come, sometimes they express negative opinions about welcoming refugees. Most people express very positive ones. It seems as though Jersey City residents and people who work here, people who come out of the Path Station, are looking for some kind of spiritual liver that can process and detoxify the pain and the pain and dismay that they have been feeling. Listening and becoming aware of national news and seeing the political direction of the country go in ways that seem outside the scope of their possibility to affect. So I'm speaking in support of the resolution the resolution is a very broad resolution, but it's described as a resolution to end immigrant detention, which seems somewhat inaccurate. And I think it is a far from perfect resolution. Nevertheless, it gives a voice to people who are looking for a voice to address the national government and other governments and have not been able to find it. There are many letter-writing campaigns that have been held, and people have been coming to them in order to stand for the values that they believe their country and their city and they themselves are associated with. This is not a very policy-oriented resolution. It's pretty clear that if a city is interested in making a statement that's not related to its own, to the scope of its own activity, it's because its residents feel a compelling ethical or some other kind of motivation. It's not a question of how many people to admit. It's not a policy question that this resolution addresses. It's a question of, it's a question that many people have thought was already answered, which is how to treat people regardless of where they're from. And it doesn't concern questions of immigration, doesn't concern the questions of numbers that have been discussed. It concerns what to do with people who have crossed the border by landing at an airport, or who have come across the border in the south. And in fact, this resolution doesn't address the question of what to do with people who come into the airport. But it's an important resolution because it expresses an opinion about how people should behave, how people should view other people, and makes this a special idea, quite outside the question of policy and immigration policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Gene Daly.
Hello, I'm Jean Daly. I actually have so much to say, but I don't have enough time to say it. But I am delighted that someone else brought up the Mount Laurel decision, because I've been spouting this New Jersey Fair Housing Act for a couple years now, and this is the first time that I heard someone else on echo or actually even mention the Mount Laurel decision. I specifically do have some problems because the city has not been enforcing it. They've been saying that, oh, we have different fund levels and this and that, and we're going to make affordable housing. But I would appreciate if someone on this council would please read this decision, the Mount Laurel decision, and the New Jersey Fair Housing Act. I'm not sure if anyone has. Because what troubles me is that there are two thresholds in the New Jersey Fair Housing Act. And we seem to only be talking about this 80% thing. There are two thresholds. One is for middle-class income, which is 50% to 80%. Where's the 50%? We just give these developers, oh, they have to hit the 80% cap. Where's the 50 to 80%? They also are mandated to have low-income affordable housing. That's under 50%. What are we doing about that? As far as I can see, zero. Not only that, this has been mentioned in the Exchange Place North redevelopment plan, which is why you'll never see any of this housing where DeMarco, Trump, all those people, Maribel, high-rises over there, because we didn't follow the law. It's a disgrace. And moreover, we are giving these abatements and variances. We give all these guys variances now to, what, $3.5 billion companies? Their net worths for these companies are staggering. Some of them are $5 billion. And we're letting them just slide on this stuff? What is wrong with these people? I'm going to say you people, but in general, what is wrong with this city council? And what is wrong with this mayor
whose orders you follow. How can you tell me that some of these construction groups, if you look at their stock market valuation, is multiple billions of dollars? And you sit there and you jump at their every request? This is disgusting. It really is. I mean, how many times can I talk about this? I'm just so thankful that someone else brought it up, the Mount Laurel decision, because you guys all think I'm a nut job. But maybe he won't be a nut job. So I appreciate that. Thank you. But there's a couple other things that I don't have time to get to. But one thing is about you're trying to find, when you go in the vacant lots, you can't find the address. Well, there's something called a business entity search. I do it all the time. When I want to find out who owns a company or owns a lot, and it's an LLC, unless it's Delaware, you do a business entity search. I got to pay for it. You guys probably don't have to. And you find out the owners, and you'll find out their addresses. Very simple. You don't need a registration. Any idiot like myself can do it. Also, what I'm confused and upset about are these scattered sites for redevelopment. Some of these scattered sites, I looked them up online. Firstly, some of these sites are already owned by the Jersey City Redevelopment Authority. Some of these things are already vacant lots owned by the city. So you're gonna have to sign up for the vacant lot thing and then pay the $1,000 and then the $2,000 and then $3,000? So, please. Also, some of these scattered lots in need of development, you got one right across the street here on Mercer Street, 4 Mercer Street. It's owned by a company. Need a development? There's one on Bright Street down by PS4 or MS4 and PS3. Downtown. Why is that an area in need of a development? Tell me. Some of these things are boarded up, and yes, I've looked at them, and they look kind of really badly, and they probably do need to be demoed. But there are some that are in terrific shape that just got bought by banks and foreclosures. Why is that in need of redevelopment? Why? Does anybody look into this stuff? Like, I just say to myself, okay, who's eyeballing what property? What insider is eyeballing what property, and they want it now? Because that's what happened before on Jersey Avenue and the hardware store there and the art store. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I'm correct, we are allowing Jenny Brower to come up and speak last? Yes. Okay.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak when I was not present when my name was called. I'm here to speak about the resolution to call upon Congress and the White House to end migrant detention. And I thank you for putting forth this bill. I urge you to pass this bill. The reason why I feel passionately about this, well, there's many. First of all, as someone else mentioned, detention centers are private, and that means that there are 2 main companies that are profiting off of keeping individuals inside of detention centers. To me, that is such a corrupt system that companies are making money off of innocent people. Another reason why I am passionately against detention centers is because as a volunteer with First Friends of New York and New Jersey, a small organization, I go to detention centers in this area and I visit one-on-one with detained people. I try to go there to give them moral support, to give them a connection to the world on the outside, to just talk, have them talk about happy memories, memories of their family that they left behind. Most of the people I've met with are asylum seekers, and in their cases, they were picked up upon arriving at the airport. One woman who I am now close friends with did not speak English at the time. She had just arrived to America from West Africa, and she had no idea what was happening. She couldn't understand what they were saying to her, and she ended up in prison. To me, that is such a backwards system. when I go visit people in the detention center, I'm in an open room, and there's many people around me. I'm speaking with one person, but there's many families around me, with people visiting their family. And very often, when the visiting hour is up, it's just 1 hour of visitation, there are people that bring their children there. And when the children are taken away from their parent that is detained, the whole family breaks out sobbing hysterically. And I've seen this happen many times, and it's very hard to witness. And that's the emotional side of what goes on in there. Beyond the emotional side is the fact that innocent people are imprisoned in warehouse areas in Elizabeth, Newark, and other cities in New Jersey and all around the nation. You wouldn't know it's there. One of them is right next to a factory. You would think you were driving to a truck stop, but instead it's a facility full of people from other countries who wait months, if not years, to find out their fate. Jersey City has always been a very welcoming place for immigrants historically, and I know that this is not detention centers and family separations is not something that Jersey City would support, especially seeing what goes on behind the scenes. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council President, we have a public speak is over?
It's over.
Yes. Actually, Resolution 20-058, we didn't get a chance at a discussion at Council caucus meetings last Tuesday. So,
Until we get to it, Michael, let's go down the list. When we get to that, then we can see if, the questions you need.
so I like to have the while people's ears, somebody can answer, or because when I read that, can I ask them? Okay, so first things.
Wait.
What do you want to do?
We're going to go in order.
Okay.
When we get to that sheet, then they'll come up and answer.
All right, good.
Okay.
Good.
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, before we move on, I just wanted to catch Councilperson Ridley up with what she missed. So we're going to go back to the first readings. Items 3.1 through 3.7, with the exception of 3.5, that was withdrawn. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye for introduction.
Aye for introduction on all.
Yes.
So that will change the vote on all of them. Just let me recap. So items, 3.1 through 3.6 are approved 8-0. And item, with the exception of 3.5, which has been withdrawn, 3.7 is now approved 7-0-1, with Councilperson Baggiano abstaining and Councilperson Navarro absent. On to our second readings. Item 4.1, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-001 is approved 8-0, with Councilperson Navarro absent. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 20-002, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-002 is approved 8-0, with Councilperson Navarro absent. On to item 4.3, City Ordinance 20-003, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-003 is adopted 8-0, with Councilperson Navarro absent. On to item 4.4, City Ordinance 20-004, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-004 is approved 7-1, with Councilperson Baggiano voting no and Councilperson Navarro absent. And on to the last second reading ordinance, item 4.5, City Ordinance 20-005, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
City Ordinance 20-005 is approved 6-2, with council members Baggiano and Yun voting no, and Councilperson Navarro absent. So now you are all caught up. Now, any questions on petitions and communications 6.1 through 6.36? Hearing none, we have our office communications 7.1 through 7.8, report of directors 8.1 through 8.4, and on to our claims and addendum number 1, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Aye. Councilperson Yun.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Robertson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Claims and addendum number 1 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Navarro absent. On to items 10.1 through 10.14.
To 14, you say?
To 14, yes. First page. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Yun.
I'm going to vote for aye, but 10.6, appointment of a new tax collector. This council, some expect to your leadership to make sure that tax collector's office provide friendly answering service to taxpayer of Jersey City. Please, that's one of the major complaints we get from our resident and especially homeowner, taxpayer. So with your new leadership to correct that problem in the future, okay? After that, I'm gonna vote for aye. Congratulations.
Councilperson Solomon.
Just again, briefly for 10.6, welcome, Joanne. We're excited to have you. I will follow up with you guys on some of the things we talked about in caucus, including all the pilot documentation, but we're appreciative that you're here. And with that, I vote aye on all.
Councilperson Robertson.
Congratulations, Joanne. I vote aye for all.
Councilperson Rivera.
Joanne, congratulations. I vote aye on all.
And Council President Waterman.
I vote aye.
Items 10.1 through 10.14 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Navarro absent. On to items 10.15 through 10.22 with the exception of 1020, which has been withdrawn.
1020 is withdrawn.
Also 1026, we were withdrawing as well.
1020.
That's on the next. That's going to be the next one that we're voting.
Yep. Apologies, I retract that statement.
So right now we're voting on items 10.15 through 10.22 with the exception of 10.20, which has been withdrawn. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
You were waiting, right? I'm sorry. Councilperson Prinzeri.
Just very briefly with regard to 10.15, as a co-sponsor, I think it's very clear where I stand on this issue. I just want to say thank you to Alan Menta for sharing the resolution, and thank you to Councilman Solomon for getting the ball rolling on this. I think in particular, as it comes to families, it's cruel and inhuman to separate them because oftentimes that is the only support that they have, period, full stop. So until families can be reunited and get due process, we still have a lot of work to do. And with that, aye for all.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye on all of them, no on 1018.
On 1018?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilperson Yun.
So I have some question about the 1015. As a first immigration generation in this country, I understand the stories like break my heart. But that's one part of that. But also as elected officer, I have some questions. That this resolution two part, first part talk about what's going on today. And the second part, because of that, we ask that the Congress has certain things we demand. But one of the things is that a demand, they call for end the immigration detention in the United States. I scratch my head. These people actually come in this country, no relative, nothing. But if you just release them, then who's going to take care of them? So instead we ask them, a call for end of the immigration detention in the United States, maybe we ask them, based on first part, we should we ask them improved the condition of a detention center. I think that's the right things to do, because people come from the very far from this country. I mean, really, no relative and nobody's here, just to release them. I think that this is a very unresponsible act as I look at it. And also, they're going to talk about the universal legal service program for, guarantee the migrant detention, so on. So it's very simple, but our Congress, actually, majority of people is a Democrat Party. Why they only allocated $200 million or to provide legal service and or to provide a better detention place to people to stay? They should be provide not $200 million, more dollars should be they do. So if we see the second part of that, the resolution, instead we ask them, stop the so-and-so, stop the so, instead to do that, we should be this resolution, we ask them, improve the detention center. We should say that give to opportunity to the family to together. I mean, that is more practical to say. But whichever we go, I mean, if somebody can answer to us, really, I mean, yes. So, well, no.
She cannot.
She cannot. I'm sorry.
You cannot. You voting now, Michael. Just vote. Say what you want to say and vote. That's it. No
so I don't have like a professional knowledge of every field, but without get some feedback from your community or your organization to make a decision, I think it's unfair to us. But this meeting run by Council President, so he stopped you to give us some expression what it is it. So then I have to make blank decision based on, I think it's not fair to me and fair to you guys. Not only that, fair to people of Jersey City. That is my concern, but it's okay. It's okay. So now, because I sympathize the people who get the suffering from there, so I'm going to vote for aye, for except 1018. Okay. 1018, Business Administrator. Even I bring up to this issue at the City Council caucus meeting. They're going to have, actually first, the agreement made year 2007 for the build-up to affordable housing, 2007. And the City of Jersey give to them $100,000 from the Affordable Trust Fund for some kind of study. And then we gotta wait another 4 years. They ask another $100,000, and we don't even know exactly where they're gonna spend it. But if anybody has common sense, this is a $20 million project. But this developer or organization have from the Affordable Housing Trust account, $100,000 already spent it, and developer equity, $210,000, and the construction loan, they say $700,000. If you add a total amount, less than $1.2 million they have, and they're gonna put in the $20 million project. Does that make sense? I mean, Council President, I'm speaking. So, the affordable housing is $100,000. The great weight maybe wasted. So I ask them, if this $20 million project is a real project, then I need a copy of a letter to construction loan, that commitment letter from the bank, they're going to give us a construction loan for $700,000. Till this point, I didn't get any receive that commitment letter. And I asked them, financial project, how they're going to bring up the $20 million, build up the $20 million project. I didn't see any document till this point. So my strong recommendation, if we continue blank to prove that affordable housing trust fund like this is not help the people who are looking for affordable housing unit in Jersey City. I mean, even though we ask that some documentation council caucus meeting, they don't want to provide, and they just ask us, close your damn eyes, just say yes.
Michael, you could calm down.
Yes. If this is your money, you're not going to calm down, wasted $100,000. Because it's not my money, maybe somebody else's money, so I'm willing to prove that $100,000 spend it. Is that fair? Tonight, I spent a lot of words, many words I use, especially one word. Is that fair? Is that right thing for taxpayer of Jersey City? Because of that, I'm going to vote for no, 1018, and should be my colleagues vote for another $100,000 just wasted. Rest of item, I'm going to vote for aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
So on 1015, thank you to everyone who came out and spoke movingly. Many of you shared, personal stories of your family or your story, which was deeply touching. And, some people said, this is, the bare minimum or the least we can do, and that's right to a certain degree. We're limited in our ability, but I do think it's extraordinarily important that we use our voice and whatever tool we have to condemn what's happening, because it is truly outrageous. And a few folks mentioned that this is not specific to the Trump administration. Our immigration policies have been broken for a long time, and many of us who consider ourselves progressive didn't do enough. There were activists who were doing more, but many of us who didn't do enough during the Obama administration. And I personally can commit that won't happen in the future. And but it has gotten significantly worse in ways that are truly unimaginable. So we have to do everything that we can. And I want to thank particularly Ms. Samshi for bringing this resolution to us, for working with the ACLU-NJ on it, and for having so many communities in New Jersey vote in favor of it. And I hope we can get every community in our state and in our country to stand up and with a clear moral voice say this has to stop, and we are a nation of immigrants, and we welcome immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees to our shores. So I proudly vote aye on 1015, and then I vote aye on all the rest.
Thank you. Councilperson Robinson.
1015. I want to just say thank you to the sponsor and all the co-sponsors. I think this is a step in the right direction. Thank you for each and every one of you that came out tonight to spend some time to share your story. I know it's pretty difficult to, get up in front of an audience and on TV to, share some personal stories, but it's definitely needed. Not for us to vote on it, because I think it's a no-brainer for everyone up here to vote on that, but to, shed some light to, to the state, the county, the country, that, Jersey City is behind its immigrant population 110%. So thank you guys for coming out. On 1018, I think Councilman said something about 2007. Did the money, the first 100,000 was in 2007, BA? Do you know? I thought that was like later, 14,
I'm not sure on the
15.
first amount. I can look it up, but I'm not sure.
No, 2015, they give us $100,000.
Okay, yeah, you said 2007, and I was like...
No, 2007, they made the original agreement with the JCRA.
Okay. Yeah, and I know I've been in constant contact with the JCRA about this. I've been really monitoring it very closely. I met with Diana Jeffries, the director over there, and she told me that they had some oil tanks that they still were working on to pull out of the ground. So I know that was a holdup. I know it was one of the properties that they were working on was sold and subsequently sold back to the JCRA in 2017, I think the date was. And that kind of slowed the progress down. And this is a project that's home ownership, and it's going to be for affordable housing. We're going to get 20% home ownership, affordable housing out of this. You know, I'm rooting for this project. I'm hoping that it gets in the ground really, really soon, because I want to see it come to fruition, because we have, you know, home ownership and affordable home ownership condominiums coming to that part of the city that desperately needs it. I'm rooting for you guys. I really hope that this, you know, takes off pretty fast and goes in the ground, and we, you know, be soon doing a ribbon cutting for, you know, people in the Ward F community to have not just affordable housing. I know someone spoke earlier about affordable housing and, you know, how the stringent rules and regulations behind that. I just hope that we, you know, can put some families in there, because I know that I've seen a project. We had 2, 3, and 4 bedroom condominiums, which would probably be a first in our city. And I'm just, I'm excited. $100,000 is, you know, a lot of money to, you know, to give out, but I truly believe that the Morris Canal family is doing the right thing, and they're pushing forward to make this a reality. And I hope I'm just here and sitting here at City Council when this project heads on. So I vote yes.
Thank you, Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Just to recap, items 1015 through 1017 are approved 8-0. Item 1018 is approved 6-2, with Council members Baggiano and Yun voting no. And items 1019 through 1022, with the exception of 1020, is approved 8-0, with Councilperson Navarro absent. On to the balance of our meeting. Thank you. On to the balance of our meeting. Before I take the vote, I believe the business administrator has indicated that we're withdrawing 10.26.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so on items 1023 through 1033, with the exception of 1026, which has been withdrawn, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano, did he leave?
Yes.
Okay. Councilperson Yun.
You know, I'm going to vote for aye, except the 1024. Again, the Airbnb hosts their social fee. If we pay by taxpayer, this is another thing, is unfairness, government and the people of taxpayer. So in other words, every time the Airbnb open Jersey City of Jersey taxpayer will be pick up minimum $250 from your tax, my tax, to subsidize Airbnb host business. This is another unacceptable act we taking by this city council. I mean, really, it's a joke. So because of that, I vote for aye, except the 1024.
Thank you. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye on all.
Councilperson Robinson.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera. And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Items 1023 approved 7-0. Item 10.24 is approved 6-1, with Councilperson Yun voting no, and Council members Baggiano and Navarro absent. Items 1025 through 1033 are approved 7-0, with Councilpersons Baggiano and Navarro absent. I have a motion to adjourn at 9:32 p.m. by Councilperson
Michael
Rivera, and I have a second by Councilperson Prinzary. By acclamation, all in favor of the motion to adjourn at 9:32 p.m., please say aye. Aye. We are out of here at 9:32. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.